He thought this world was just a game until he saw his friend strapped to an electric chair right in front of him, calling his name, saying she couldn't take it anymore, apologizing through tears. He begged her not to give up as her head tilted forward. Not long after, his other friend on the chair beside him said something similar, asking him to at least survive. As time passed, he had no choice but to accept that this place was his reality. One by one, all his friends started dying while he begged not to be left alone in this place, tortured day after day. Reverse Planet was the #1 VR game in the world, known by everyone, with themes anyone could enjoy and ultra-realistic PvP. He logged in at a friend's recommendation, only to become completely trapped. The vault doors opened and a group of people in hazmat suits walked in, congratulating test subject number 62. They said he had taken one step closer to becoming a transcendent of Project Transcendence. Project Transcendence was a mad experiment that consumed thousands of lives to create a single transcendent. Kidnapped victims were subjected to electric torture, drug injections, and body modifications, basically inhuman biological experiments. The hazmat team began removing the dead from their chairs to burn the bodies while locking the survivors back inside. The MC clenched his fist and swore he would never forgive them. If this was truly his reality, he was ready to survive this hell and take his revenge. Then, with a stroke of luck, the test subjects managed to plan an escape. One of them knew the route to the exit, and the others followed closely behind. When they reached the final corridor and could see the outside world, someone jumped out in front of them. It was a guard who asked where they thought they were going. He said this was as far as they would go and that it was time for them to die. With no other choice, the test subjects fought back. The two in front said they would hold the guard off and told the MC to cover their rear. The guard mocked them, saying they were stupid and that he would kill them all at once. Minutes later, the guard was on the ground being choked by the MC. When the guard finally died, the MC pushed his body away and saw that all his comrades were dead. It had happened again. He heard a familiar voice calling his name, Ethan. He saw his comrades' souls rising from their bodies, asking him to avenge them and kill all the scientists. Not just them, but all the friends he had watched die right in front of him. 2 or 3 years after escaping the lab, he hunted down and killed everyone connected to it. But the revenge never ended. It was as if the souls of his fallen comrades were stuck to him, constantly telling him to keep killing. He wondered how long he was supposed to live like this, and if this was how he was meant to die. Then something appeared in his status window, a special mission called Bug Fix. His objective was to eliminate the head of Project Transcendence, and in return, he would get a chance to return to the original world. A few years later, in a room filled with dead guards, a man was on his knees asking why Ethan was doing this. He said there was nothing left to do but bask in glory after everything they had achieved together. He was the general manager of Project Transcendence. Ethan's comrade, experiment number 81, grabbed the man, asking if he was seriously questioning their actions. He asked if the manager was really that oblivious. The man slapped 81's hand away, telling him to shut up and saying the question was for Ethan. Ethan was the first to achieve transcendence and become a superhuman. The man said Ethan was their most successful experiment in Project Transcendence. He offered Ethan anything he desired, saying he was different from all those useless failures. Ethan raised his hand, saying he didn't need anything. The man snapped, asking if Ethan really think everything would end with his death. He threatened that the League of Enterprises never lets go of anyone who bears their fangs. He said his friends, family, and coworkers would all be ruined. Before he could finish, he was cut in half. His blood sprayed all over number 81 standing beside him. 81 yelled at Ethan, asking if he couldn't at least warn him before turning the guy into a blood shower. He said they still had questions to ask and demanded to know why he killed him so suddenly. But then he noticed Ethan wasn't paying attention at all. The mission he was given was complete. He could now return to his original world. All he had to do was press the button. But before he could, he heard that familiar voice again, asking where he thought he was going, asking if he had forgotten about them, telling him to kill the rest as well to complete their revenge. He was sick of it. He wondered if everything he had done still wasn't enough, even if he disappeared. And this was his one chance to return to his world. 81 tried to shake him awake. Ethan said he was going back to his original world. 81 asked what this nonsense was about another world. He told Ethan he lived in this world from the beginning. Ethan asked 81 to tell the others about him. Then he pressed yes. The next thing he knew, he woke up in a bed, in his old room. He looked around and saw his phone, wondering how much time had passed. He didn't remember the exact date, but the year and month were almost the same as when he left, meaning this was around the same day he had been dragged into that world. He looked in the mirror and saw his scars were gone, all his muscles were gone, as if that hell had all been a dream. The thousands of people he killed, his friends he lost, the threats from the general manager. There was no way all of that was just a dream. It was too vivid. The 10 years he spent in that world were definitely real. As he came back from the washroom, his phone started ringing. The caller was someone named Nyan. The name felt familiar the moment he picked up. She immediately started yelling at him, asking why he was unreachable and if he had forgotten our promise. Ethan asked what she was talking about. She said we were supposed to meet that evening. She said she would send him the location and told him to hurry. Before he could even respond, she hung up. Ethan realized he remembered that voice. It was his closest friend, the one who got him to play Reverse Planet. He wondered if she was somehow behind everything, though it seemed unlikely based on what he remembered about her. Still, he decided to go meet her. As soon as he entered the restaurant, she called out to him from a corner, saying it had been a while since we talked. She said this was our first time meeting since you got into university. Then she asked if he was drinking. Ethan said he'd pass. He didn't trust her enough to get drunk in front of her. Nyan was surprised he turned down a drink and asked if he wanted to order food instead. They ordered and started eating. Then Nyan asked if he had tried Reverse Planet yet. She reminded him he promised to at least do the tutorial. Ethan told her he created his character and watched the intro since he got sucked into the game right after. Nyan asked what intro he was even talking about. She sighed and said he might as well admit he didn't play at all. That made Ethan furious. He had spent over 10 years in hell because of her. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have gone through any of that. Nyan said she was super excited to play the game with him. She said he promised to appear regularly on her streams since he was a Coliseum ranker. Even half of his presence on a small streamer platform like hers would cause a huge buzz. Ethan remembered she had mentioned streaming games and that she always asked him to appear. He asked if he really promised something like that. She said he promised to appear at least once. Back at his house, Ethan researched the game and its developers. Their headquarters were in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Even if he went there, he'd just be seen as a lunatic if he said he was dragged into another world because of their game. He wondered why he was even looking this up. He should have been grateful just to escape that hell. He told himself to forget everything that happened there since he was back now. After that day, Ethan returned to university, trying to live a normal life, focusing on his studies. But one day he heard the voices again, asking if this is really his true reality. He turned around in fear, but there was nothing there. Still, something felt off. The voices came back telling him to take revenge, saying he didn't belong here. He screamed and ran out of the library. After a while, he tried to catch his breath. Then he felt a hand on his shoulder. He grabbed it and pulled it down, reaching for a knife and slashing the person's throat, or at least that's what he would have done if he had one. The guy shouted, asking what he was doing. Ethan let go and said he was just startled. His friend said others had noticed how off Ethan seemed lately. Ethan walked away, popped open an energy drink, and sat next to a vending machine. The voices appeared again, telling him to go back, telling him to not forget them, telling him to take revenge. Then Nyan suddenly appeared behind him, asking what was up with his face, saying he heard he'd been acting crazy lately. She asked if something happened. Ethan said nothing was wrong. She told him he could always tell his big sister if something was up. Ethan asked since when she became his big sister. She laughed and left after some small talk. Ethan finally decided to face the ghosts haunting him by going back into the game, because if he was going to be hunted like this, then there was no difference between this world and the other one. So he logged back in to end it once and for all. He spawns in the research lab lobby. He wonders if it really was just a game and not another world, because there was no way for him to enter the lab like this back then. He questions why he isn't in that world instead, even after finally making up his mind to return to that hell. He wonders if there was some condition he missed, so he decides to finish the tutorial, thinking it might drag him into the other world once it's complete. He proceeds with all the default settings. Then he's asked to choose his first core ability, which he can change at any time. Reverse Planet is designed so that after choosing a core ability, you strengthen your character through elements. The combination of core ability and elements is called a build. There's a massive variety of elements, and in the pro leagues there are even build specialists whose job is to research them. That's also how he earned the title Metahuman. After selecting his skill, the speaker turns on, calling him test subject number 48. He's told he awakened in the last test and that it's been a week since they last saw him. Ethan wonders if the game really wouldn't show the process before awakening. But then again, no one would experience something like that even in a game. The speaker announces the next test is starting immediately and tells him to head inside. The room contains a sentinel, a killing machine designed to stop those who awakened and went berserk during Project Transcendence. He's seen it kill countless test subjects before. His tutorial quest is to destroy the Sentinel. He wonders if this is the first version because the one he remembers was way more terrifying. As the Sentinel charges at him, he says it doesn't matter whether this is a game or another world. These researchers are always cruel. The Sentinel swings at him, then tries to grab him, but Ethan dodges everything and closes in. He says that even though the first version was annoying because of its ability, it's nothing compared to the newer models. He smashes its head, destroying it. The speaker announces the test is complete and praises test subject number 48 for his performance. They say his talent with his ability is leagues beyond the average test subject. The speaker asks if he's ready to proceed to the next test. But suddenly, alarms blare. The speaker says someone from the government is breaking into the facility. Then the voice cuts off in a dying scream. A new voice takes over the system, calling out to all the oppressed victims trapped in the lab. She tells everyone to give it their all and escape immediately. He receives a new tutorial mission to escape the research facility. The lab starts exploding. Moments later, he's running through the halls as the explosions fade. He reaches a corridor filled with destroyed sentinels and a coughing soldier. The soldier bears the logo of the Dimensional Management Bureau, so he isn't an enemy. The soldier sees Ethan and assumes he's a victim of the experiments. He says he can help Ethan while slowly reaching for a device with a button. When the button is pressed, the door behind the soldier opens, revealing a room full of weapons. The soldier also gives Ethan a communication device for when he makes it outside. Halfway through explaining, the soldier dies. Another sentinel emerges behind Ethan. Since he's in a game, he knows this is just a story progression step, but as he grabs the chained sickle, he feels disgusted even though it's just a game. Meanwhile, on a different server, a girl says she wasn't expecting to play the world's most beloved game, Reverse Planet. Her name is Soil, a game streamer. She says her pride as a hipster has been completely destroyed. Her chat asks why she's overreacting to playing such an easy game. She snaps back saying she didn't choose the game, they did as punishment. But since she promised, she'll still play it because she never breaks promises with her viewers. Chat is confused. They remind her she's baited them before when saying she'd play Reverse Planet. One time, she booted up Solitaire after claiming she'd play a globally famous game. She quickly changes the subject, saying she'll dominate Reverse Planet as punishment for failing the last game. She quickly chooses her settings and abilities. Next is the combat correction rate, a system that helps with stance, movement, and ability usage in combat. The higher the percentage, the more assistance the player gets. Everyone in chat tells her to go with 0%. She wonders if that's even possible. According to her research, among previous world users, the percentage of players who chose 0% correction was 0. But she trained in many indie games, so she's confident in her physical skills. Still, without correction, it feels like controlling a third hand suddenly attached to your body. She asks her chat if she should really go 0%. Then, she sees a mission to clear the tutorial with 0% combat correction for $400 real-life cash prize. Her attitude instantly changes at the mention of money. She says every streamer should try it at least once. Chat can't believe how fast she switched up. She runs out of the starting room, fully hyped. A few minutes later, she asks chat if this is even real. She was ambushed and killed the moment she stepped outside. She cries, saying she had to fight without even getting an explanation. Some chatters try to comfort her. Others roast her for the dumb decision. Since she got a walkie-talkie, she asks if she just needs to escape now. For the second quest, she starts auto-matching for a party. She asks if she has to clear the next mission with a party. Most chatters say she's about to get carried again, like always. But one person says matching won't work. She says this game has one of the biggest player bases, so matching should work. But just like the viewer said, matching fails. Then the system expands to multiple servers. Some chatters explain the system only matches players with the same combat correction percentage. She gives up, saying she'll cancel and restart after getting clowned by chat. But then, suddenly, she gets matched. She desperately tries to cancel the party, but it doesn't work. She's pulled into her party mate's world. She thinks she's doomed. But in front of her are dozens of destroyed sentinel husks. Some viewers ask if she got placed in a pro lobby. Others explain that even pros can't clear the tutorial without combat correction, and this person didn't even use a gun. Soil cheers up, thinking she's about to get hard carried. She decides to go find her party mate. Meanwhile, in the room ahead, Ethan stands in the center, blood dripping from his knife, surrounded by corpses of guards and machine husks. He notices something approaching. Soil peeks through the corridor, talking to her chat. Within a second, Ethan's knife is inches from her eyes. She freezes, sweating, then jumps back behind the wall, apologizing. After seeing her clothes, Ethan realizes she isn't an enemy. She also notices his clothes. He excuses himself, but before he leaves, she tells him they're in the same party and asks if they can go together. She introduces herself and says she's streaming. She also asks if it's okay to stream all of this. Before he can answer, she says her personal identity protection is on, so his face will be blurred. Ethan suddenly stops. She starts sweating, wondering if he made her angry. 3 guards announce that the escaped test subjects have been found. They say capture is unnecessary and all targets are to be eliminated. They open fire. Soil quickly hides behind a sentinel husk. She asks why the tutorial is this hard. Then she remembers her carry and turns to see if he's okay. He's in mid-air, flying through bullets like it's the Matrix, his changed sickle slicing guards from a distance. Soil admits she isn't well-versed in Reverse Planet and asks if what he's doing even makes sense. Chat agrees, saying it should be impossible to use a weapon like that without assistance from the game. She asks if anyone knows what ability he's using. Some say it's wind since he was flying. Others disagree. Some say they don't know, but they'd never want to face him in PvP. One viewer says the only core ability that changes eye color and boosts physical abilities is Absolute Being. Soil remembers that ability. She asks if chat didn't say that people who choose that ability are trash. The viewer replies that's exactly why everyone is confused. Absolute Being was one of the core pillars of Reverse Planet's countless skills. It massively boosted stats and skill resistance, but it completely prevented the user from using abilities. Because of those restrictions, players considered it a trash-tier skill. It ranked number 1 on the community's confidently avoid list. So Yul said that was weird, since abilities were the entire point of the game. Chat agreed, saying they'd never even seen anyone pick it, not even on alt accounts. One viewer pointed out that the physical buff might still be useful, especially since he was fighting without combat correction. Soyul thought that made sense, but Ethan was still way too nimble for a level 1 player. He blitzed past all 3 guards and killed them in seconds. But the voices weren't satisfied. They wanted him to be even more violent. A guard sneaked up behind Ethan while he was lost in thought. Soyul jumped out of cover, yelling for him to watch out. She dove in front of him and started firing. The guard ducked back into cover. Soyul slid forward and shot the guard in the head. Some chatters called her cool. Others said at least she could shoot. And some called her a kill stealer. She looked at Ethan and asked if she didn't help, reminding him of someone from the other world. Soyul called out to him, snapping him out of his thoughts. She asked if he was mad because she took the kill. She said she just wanted to help. Ethan said it was fine and that she really did help. Chat said he was just being nice and had taken a kill stealer under his wing. Soyul asked if she could stick with him for the rest of the tutorial, promising to help as much as possible. Ethan said he didn't mind. She asked if Mr. Hardcarry had a name. He told her to call him Ethan. She wondered if that was his real name since it wasn't being censored on stream. She asked if he picked Absolute Being as his first core skill. Ethan said she was right. Chat said they might need to reevaluate Absolute Being. Others said it was still trash. Soyul asked how he dodged all those bullets without abilities and if he played other games. Ethan said he didn't play anything else. Suddenly, he stopped moving. Soyul asked if something was wrong. Ethan told her there were 2 sentinels about 20 meters ahead. She wondered how he could identify both their number and distance without detection abilities. Ethan said they weren't a problem. She thought he was joking. He wasn't. As they walked toward the sentinels, he casually mentioned that he used to enjoy a game called Colosseum. He dodged under a sentinel's arm and kicked it in the core, sending it flying. While fighting, he mentioned that he used to be a ranker in Colosseum. Chat said that explained everything. Soyul didn't know what that meant and asked if being a ranker was really that big of a deal. Chat immediately roasted her, asking how she didn't know and calling her a hipster. They told her that Badler, the biggest pro player in Reverse Planet, was also a ranker. She knew who Badler was since he dominated the pro scene. Ethan told her they should keep moving. The final tutorial mission appeared, a fight against the lab security chief. The boss said Ethan would soon join his dead comrades. Ethan saw the ghosts appear all around the boss. They began chanting, urging him to kill him. The boss charged. Soyul crouched and opened fire. The bullets were deflected. She complained, asking if only Awakeners were allowed to use particle barriers. Chat explained that the security chief was an Awakener himself. Soyul teleported into cover and said she'd provide covering fire from there. Chat called her out for retreating and leaving the fight to her carry. Ethan thought that even if this was a game, if killing the boss satisfied the ghosts even a little bit, he'd do it. He landed a liver shot on the boss, sending him crashing into the wall. Soyul and her viewers were stunned. The boss turned completely metallic. Chat explained his skill, Iron Man, which allowed him to turn his body into iron. Every step shook the ground as he charged at Ethan. Ethan jumped back. The boss asked how long Ethan planned on keeping dodging. He turned his arm into a spinning drill and smashed through the wall, charging again. Chat wondered how Ethan was dodging everything and where Soyul's covering fire went. Ethan punched the boss in the face, dropping him to the knees. Ethan told him not to disable his iron skill. He didn't want the boss to die too easily. His comrades urged him to be even more violent, just like the suffering they endured. The boss asked how a mere test subject could become this strong. Ethan said it was all thanks to the lab. Then he finished him off. The mission was complete. Soyul wasn't even sure what she had just watched. Chat said Ethan looked like someone who was used to beating people up. Soyul said she beat the boss and asked if all that was left was to leave the area. Chat asked why she was acting like she beat the boss when she got completely carried. She called out to Ethan. As he walked away, the ghosts swarmed the boss's body. After exiting the lab, they leveled up and received a skill point. Soyul asked if Ethan was going to continue the main quest. Ethan said no, and that he was calling it a day. She asked if he could wait a few minutes. She turned to Chat and said she completed the No Combat Assistance tutorial mission. Chat called her shameless and said she should be on Forbes' top 100 list for hardest carried streamer. After ending the stream, she went back to Ethan. She thanked him for waiting and asked if he could join her streams regularly. He asked what she meant. She planned to play Reverse Planet until she cleared all the main quests and did some PvP. With puppy dog eyes, she said she'd stream around his schedule and pay him a hefty appearance fee. Ethan immediately apologized and said he couldn't. His expression made it clear he wouldn't change his mind. So she asked if she could at least add him. He said that was fine. She thanked him and said she had fun playing with him. Then she logged off. But even though Ethan finished the tutorial, he still didn't return to the other world. Meanwhile, he didn't know that his gameplay was already attracting hack accusations. Early the next morning, at the Korean branch of Planet Earth, the developer studio of Reverse Planet was in total chaos. The entire office was shaken because of one player. It was an unprecedented incident in the company's history. The devs replayed the fight over and over, but it was still unbelievable. No buffs, no combat correction, no weapons, yet he crushed the security chief with his bare hands. One dev said the online community had already decided Ethan was hacking. Users were flooding the company boards, demanding answers. He asked if they were sure Ethan wasn't cheating. A female dev said they were completely sure. They checked everything, even the logs from the moment the character was created. There was zero evidence of tampering or external program injection. They'd seen countless cheaters over the years, from wall walking to no clipping, but they'd never seen movement like this. She said it was impossible even with hacks. The main dev asked if that meant he was just insane. Another dev said there was still a chance it was a new hack they hadn't detected yet. The main dev agreed, saying that's why they needed proper verification. At a cafe near his house, Ethan asked Nyan if the whole online community was really flipping out because of him. With sparkles in her eyes, she said yes, it was complete chaos. She said people even started a default settings challenge, but everyone failed, so now they were insisting Ethan hacked. She said she was shocked when she saw the video herself. Ethan asked how she recognized him, even though his identity was hidden. She said he said his name on stream, and she'd seen him fight before. She already knew he was good, but even she wasn't expecting him to be this strong. He asked if that's why she contacted him. She asked what he meant. She said she didn't contact him at all. He checked his phone and realized Planet Earth had contacted him. They wanted to investigate whether he used hacks. Ethan said he received the message through the streamer he played with. Nyan said this was going to attract massive attention. A game company directly stepping in to verify hacking was huge. She asked if he was going to do it, clearly excited. Ethan thought that even though it was just the Korean branch, it was still his only chance to interact with the devs. If someone high-ranking showed up, he might get clues about the other world. He told her he said he'd think about it. Nyan said that was a good choice. She said clearing his name would be better than constantly being called a hacker. Ethan said he didn't really care about that. He asked if people would even recognize him since he never showed his face. Nyan said even with a different appearance, his fighting style was too unique. Even pros didn't fight without abilities like he did. She explained that people find pro players' alt accounts just by studying their habits. She said it was good he was doing this, otherwise the streamer he played with would keep getting flamed. He asked why would she get hate when she had nothing to do with it. Nyan asked if mobs ever cared about that. Once drama starts, they target anyone even remotely related. First him, then Soil. Ethan thought he couldn't let her get dragged into this, so he sent a message saying he'd do it. Soil was surprised when she saw he accepted. With all the hype, her viewer count was about to skyrocket. She started giggling, telling the haters to wait and watch. She said they were about to witness something never seen before in Reverse Planet history. She sent out a notice about the hack verification stream. 4 days later, Ethan logged in. Soil ran toward him, apologized for causing so much trouble, and asked if it had been hard for him. Ethan said he was fine. Then he asked if she had suspected him. She said she didn't since she saw his movements that day. She said your eyes looked like those of a deranged killer. She didn't think a hacker would look like that. But she told him it was just her instinct. After an awkward laugh, she started her stream and welcomed her viewers. She had 10,000 viewers instantly. She said that proved how much attention this controversy had drawn, which is why she invited Ethan again. As soon as Ethan introduced himself, chat started calling him a shameless hacker. Some tried to stay neutral. Soil told chat to calm down unless they wanted the chat disabled. She then asked Ethan what he thought about the controversy. He said the fact that something like this even became a controversy was ridiculous. They immediately started quoting him to mock him. Some called him a pretentious hacker. One chatter asked how they were going to prove it. Soil explained they invited a special guest for the verification. A normal-looking guy with a clipboard logged in beside them. He had the game mod title above his head. He said he was the Operations Team 1 manager of Planet Earth, Korea. Ethan thought an Operations Team manager had a high chance of knowing something. After the verification, he needed to ask him questions. Soil thanked the GM for coming, and all three of them introduced themselves. The GM said the infamous Ethan looked normal on the outside. He said he'd guide them to the training area. He teleported them to a training room. He said they would conduct multiple combat tests to check for any external program assistance. He asked if Ethan consented to the testing. Ethan said he did. The door opened behind them. A sentinel emerged into the training room. This one was mid-tier. The GM said they'd start with a mid-tier sentinel, but Ethan wasn't listening. He could already hear the ghosts. The GM was about to explain that Ethan and the sentinel were just going to fight, but before he could finish, he heard a bang. Debris flew toward him. Ethan was gone from his side. The GM tried to continue speaking. Another bang, then another. He didn't even get time to explain what Ethan was supposed to do. Chat started asking how Ethan was crushing mid-tier sentinels with his bare hands. Some even started feeling bad for the sentinels. But the GM detected zero external program interference. It wasn't a hack at all. Destroying all the training bots, Ethan looks at the GM and says it's all done. The GM explains that they weren't able to detect any external programs in his fights, and since the verification time was short, he asks if Ethan is okay with fighting under the specified conditions. Ethan says he can do that. He realizes this is to confirm he isn't using an autopilot cheat, a type of cheat that acts like a proxy control system and can't perfectly replicate a user's real-time decisions. So if the attack pattern is decided beforehand and followed exactly, it proves he isn't cheating. The GM thanks Ethan for accepting the request and tells him to slash the heads of 3 intermediate training bots using his chain sickle. Ethan says he gets it immediately. The GM wonders if it's really okay for him to accept such a disadvantage without hesitation, but even the GM can't imagine Ethan losing as the bots rush him. They all attack at once. Ethan flicks his chain upward, then passes through them, and when he turns around, they're already dead. So-Yul jumps around excited, saying she knew this would happen since she'd seen it before. She asks if everyone saw how his chain sickles moved like they were alive. The GM thinks he already has enough data for verification, but as a game admin, he's dying to know if Ethan can beat an advanced training bot with only one core ability. Even though he's not supposed to, his curiosity wins and summons another bot. The chat goes crazy seeing the advanced training bot and starts calling the admin toxic for spawning it. The GM says they'll proceed with verification using an advanced training bot. Ethan can see the faces of countless comrades who were massacred by this thing. Just looking at it pisses him off. It suddenly attacks. He dodges but still gets grazed on the cheek. The bot starts punching relentlessly, its blows leaving dents in the wall a few feet behind Ethan. Just like he expected, intermediate bots were nothing compared to this one. If he lets even one solid hit land, it's bad news, and the hardness of the bot's body is on a whole different level. He can't damage it at all. Ethan ducks under one of its punches, thinking he just has to keep hitting until the damage builds up. The spectators can't believe what they're seeing. The GM realizes Ethan is actually matching an advanced training bot using only one core ability. Even though he looked like he was being pushed back at first, he's now starting to overwhelm the bot. The GM decides there's no need for further inspection and despawns it. It disappears right in front of Ethan. The GM explains that the bot was removed since they already have enough data for verification. So-Yul asks about the results. The GM says it's been clearly confirmed there was no external program involved whatsoever, meaning Ethan isn't a cheater. The viewers instantly switch sides, saying the accusations were baseless from the start, and the original post accusing him gets deleted. So-Yul laughs and says she told them he wasn't a hacker. The chat asks why he looks so proud. She tells them to remember Ethan isn't a hacker, he's just mechanically gifted. She then ends the stream, and at its peak, the viewer count hits 101K. So-Yul thanks both of them for agreeing to appear on her stream. The GM says he should be thanking them for willingly accepting the verification request. The GM is about to leave when Ethan stops him and says he has something to ask. He asks if there has ever been a bug where someone got stuck in the game for a very long time. The GM says he hasn't heard of anything like that, and if there had been a critical bug like that, the game wouldn't have blown up the way it did. The GM leaves after that. So Yul turns to Ethan and says she plans to share the stream revenue with him and asks if it's okay to contact him again later. He says he understands and tells her to call him another time. She thinks she can't let him go that easily, since he's basically a living, breathing clip farm. Ethan looks confused and asks if something's wrong. So Yul can't bring herself to ask him to be on her stream again. The only reason he accepted this time was because he needed to prove his innocence. She decides to draw the line there and not bother him anymore. She thanks him again and quickly logs off, saying she'll contact him later. Ethan feels disappointed after not getting as much information as he hoped. He then gets a message from Nayeon saying she's waiting for him in the battle prep room. When he arrives, she explodes with questions, asking how his first stream was and saying the community is blowing up again. Ethan says it didn't really suit him. He says having to watch what viewers say while playing just isn't his thing. She suddenly grabs his hand and asks if it would be okay if he just played the game and didn't have to care about viewers. Before he can answer, she says she'll set everything up for him and asks him to just try it. He's about to refuse, but stops when she sees how excited she is. Then she says they should go play some PvP, or player versus player, where players fight each other. Ethan asks if that's why she called him there. She asks if that wasn't obvious and asks if he's really going to leave without playing with her. Ethan says the game doesn't really feel suited for him, so he wasn't planning to play for a while. Nayeon tells him PvP is the core content of Reverse Planet and asks him not to judge it after just the tutorial. The story mode felt too similar to the other worlds, but everything he's seen in PvP feels new. He says he'll give it a try. Nayeon gets excited and says she'll explain PvP to him. The first mode is called Showdown, where players literally just face off against matched opponents. There are two versions, Solo 1v1 and Duo 2v2, with first to 3 wins. Then there's Warfare mode, where players choose a game mode and fight in teams of 5. And then there's the mode they're playing today, a Battle Royal, where 100 players are spread across multiple zones, loot equipment, and fight with the last team standing winning. She says since it's his first time, they should go in as a team. She also explains that he needs a build for PvP and offers to recommend one. Ethan says it's fine since he already has a good build. His build is the same reason he was called a superhuman in the other world. He gets his build ready while Nayeon sets up the game mode. She says they're starting at a hotspot called the military base, a place packed with high-tier equipment and swarming with top players, which makes it totally unsuitable for beginners. She cozies up to him and asks if it's okay if she records the match since she wants to upload it to YouTube. Ethan tells her to get off him and says he doesn't care if she records. She immediately starts the game and the 60-second countdown begins. Nayeon salutes him and says she'll see you in-game. Ethan spawns right behind a random guy. The guy complains that he spawned in the 3rd floor corridor and says this spawn totally sucks, then decides to move somewhere else to loot. But bro is already dead. Meanwhile, Nayeon gets a notification that Ethan has already eliminated someone 10 seconds in, and soon her kill feed is completely filled with his eliminations. She asks what's going on and what on earth Ethan is doing. Ethan finishes off the last person nearby. He can't sense any more presence around him. He wasn't expecting to run into 4 people at once when he dropped in, and now that he's done farming, he decides it's time to move. Nayeon suddenly calls for help on voice chat. She says she's surrounded and there are too many enemies near her. Ethan checks the map and sees she's about a block away. As he approaches her building, he asks what floor she's on. Nayeon says she's on the 3rd floor rooftop. She tells him there's so much noise downstairs, it feels like every floor in the building has someone fighting. Ethan understands. 2 players spot Ethan running toward them. One asks why he's moving so fast. The other tells him to get his ability ready. Ethan pulls out his knife and dashes past the first guy, slicing his arm clean off. The guy freezes, asking what just happened, and wonders if Ethan is using a dexterity build among physical types. He activates his skill and sends a shadow spike wall at Ethan. Ethan jumps over it, flies straight toward him, and lands beside him after cutting his neck. Ethan immediately runs up to the next floor, dealing with another team along the way. He tells Nayeon he's at the front gate. She asks if she should come down to support him. He tells her not to and asks her to stay where she is. As soon as he opens the door, he senses 5 people inside the building. The moment he steps in, a guy hiding behind the door jumps out to kill him, but Ethan grabs his hand and punches him multiple times in under a second. He thinks he should pick up the pace and quickly jumps up to the next floor, taking out 4 more people and flooding Nayeon's kill feed again. She laughs nervously and says Ethan is smurfing right now. Suddenly, she senses someone right next to her and swings her chainsaw, almost slicing Ethan in half if he hadn't moved back. Nayan says he scared her and that she didn't even notice him until he was right beside her. Ethan looks at her like he's wondering if she really needed help at all. She asks if he already took out everyone in the building. He says he did and asks what's up with her weapon. She says it's the only thing she found lying around. She adds that she doesn't want to lose to him and now it's her turn to carry him for the rest of the game. The match ends with them winning. Ethan finishes with 25 kills and 7 assists, while Mayan gets 7 kills and 15 assists. After that, they win every single game they play, with Ethan getting around 32 kills in most of them. Nayan says she can't believe they won 10 times in a row. She says she's tired and can't play anymore. Nayan thinks the Ethan she believed was just an ordinary college student turned out to be a crazy killing machine. She swears to herself that she will get him on her streams. She asks if he can wait 2 days before doing his main missions because she wants to bring him an official offer. Ethan says he already told her he's not interested and that he isn't planning to do the main mission anyway. She tells him to at least hear her out and promises she'll bring him a good deal. After Nayan logs out, Ethan is alone again, thinking that he couldn't get any clues about the other world even in PvP. At Soyul's apartment, she scrolls through community threads on her phone, giggling to herself. She rolls around on her bed saying she hit the jackpot with 100K viewers. She wonders if something like that will ever happen again in her streaming career. She thinks she wishes she could stream more with Ethan, and maybe she should have been a little more persistent, but he looked like he had already made his mind. She decides to send Ethan his share of the revenue first. When she checks how much she made, her face turns red. The next day at their usual cafe, Ethan asks why Nayan suddenly called him there and what she's even looking at. Nayan proudly presents her majestic creation. She says it's a PowerPoint she made overnight to persuade him, the Ethan and Nayan streamer project. She says you told me it was fine as long as the stream was only you playing the game. She says I'm thinking of a reality show style stream, a broadcast format where multiple cast members gather in a studio and watch recorded footage of other cast members. She says you can just play the game while I do the commentary, and if you think that's not enough, you can bring in professional casters. She says the profits would be split 60-40 and asks if that isn't a good deal. Ethan says he already told her he's not interested. She says he's only saying no because he doesn't know how much streamers actually make. Then she suddenly remembers something and asks if he received his payment from Soyul. Ethan says he forgot about her and checks his phone to see an email from her that arrived that morning. He opens it and sees she says his share is almost $5,000. Nayan sees the amount and asks if he's sure he's still not interested. Soyul also included a message from a chatter who spent a lot of money on super chats. Their name is Anonymous Viewer 62. They say it's good to see you again and ask how it feels to be back in reality. They even give him a special mission, saying they'll be watching him from now on whenever he streams. This person knows exactly who Ethan is. They know he's test subject number 62. Ethan jumps up from his seat, wondering who it could be. He asks Nayan if it's possible to find out the donor's information. She says it's probably not because of privacy laws, and that you can't even message an anonymous viewer. The only way to communicate is through stream chat. Ethan immediately says he'll do it. He says he'll start streaming. Nayan excitedly asks if he's serious and says he can't take it back now. On the day of the stream, a Friday evening, the perfect time for everyone to relax, each person sitting down with their own expectations. Those who proudly call themselves gamers gather in front of their screens with one shared anticipation. There are 5 minutes left until Ethan's stream starts, and everyone is waiting. Inside a virtual broadcasting studio in Reverse Planet, Nayeon is shaking from nerves. The commentator next to her, Mr. Sung, tells her not to worry, saying they prepared thoroughly so there shouldn't be any problems. Sung admits he was also nervous when he got the call to join the broadcast. He says he never thought anyone other than Soil could get Ethan to stream with them. Nayeon laughs nervously, thinking this guy agreed instantly the moment he heard she was Ethan's friend. The live stream starts, and Nayeon and Mr. Sung introduce themselves. The viewers immediately start asking for Ethan. Nayeon tells them he's already in-game. She explains that their show will run like a reality show where they commentate over Ethan's gameplay. She says everyone must be dying to know how Ethan plays Reverse Planet, and asks if they should find out together. She sends Ethan a message telling him to start. Ethan begins the mission. His task is to join the Otherworld Management Bureau. It's the same mission he witnessed before. Back then, he was only focused on escaping, but this time, things are different. He shouts at the top of his lungs, drawing the attention of all the guards around him. They all start rushing toward him. He pulls out his sickle as the enemies approach. The ghosts appear, urging him to kill the guards and take revenge. Some guards start shooting. Ethan runs straight into the bullets, destroying one guard's grenade launcher and causing an explosion. The melee guards jump at him. His chain whips around them, wrapping them together, slamming them into the ground, then crushing their skulls as he lands on them. More guards arrive. Nyan says this is not how her reverse planet works. Mr. Sung says he's never seen gameplay like this in his entire commentator career. She explains that Ethan doesn't even use a strategy and just rushes in, gathering all the enemies at once. The chat explodes. Some say their Ethan doesn't need a strategy. Others ask if it isn't common sense to gather all the enemies instead of wasting time hunting them down. One chatter donates money to ask if the absolute being skill is too broken since it doesn't even look like it has a cooldown. Nyan reads the question and asks what Mr. Sung thinks. Mr. Sung says he can confidently say that isn't the case. Most skills have unique cooldowns, and because of that, Ethan's build may look overpowered since he's using his core ability without a cooldown. But absolute being only enhances physical ability. It doesn't affect battle intelligence or weapon proficiency. Not only that, Ethan isn't even using buffs. He says Ethan could fight like this in real life if he had the same physical abilities as he does in the game. Meanwhile, in the game, Ethan gets surrounded by multiple guards. One man steps forward and introduces himself as Kim from the Otherworld Management Bureau. He tells the others to lower their weapons after seeing Ethan's outfit, saying Ethan must be a victim who escaped from the lab. Kim asks about the walkie-talkie. Ethan explains that a soldier gave it to him inside the lab. Kim shakes his head and says his comrade must be dead then. Ethan thinks Kim is just as sentimental as he was in the other world. Kim says they'll take Ethan to the bureau until they can confirm his identity. Ethan says he's fine with that. Ethan levels up after finishing the mission. Inside the bureau's counseling room, Ethan thinks he never imagined he'd end up here. In the other world, he gathered funds for his revenge by working for a firm after escaping the lab. He took on all kinds of requests, like assassinations and abductions, but the biggest one was subjugating Reverse Planet monsters. The firm would commission him to clear Reverse Planet, aiming for the loot, and whenever they decided the loot was useless, they dumped the cleanup work on him. That led to him constantly crossing paths with the Bureau. Sometimes they cooperated in operations. Other times, conflicts broke out and they ended up pointing their blades at each other. A woman opens the door and introduces herself as Ginny, affiliated with the Bureau's first team. The chat goes crazy over her appearance. Ginny walks to the table, takes a seat, and tells Ethan he has two choices moving forward. The first is to live as a normal person under the Bureau's protection, but in that case, using his abilities would be strictly prohibited. The second is to become affiliated with the Bureau. If he chooses that, he won't act as an official agent right away. He'll undergo training and be sent on missions only after they decide he's ready. He once killed several of their agents in the other world, and now he's being asked to become their ally. Ginny leans closer and asks which option he's going to choose. He thinks for a moment, realizing he's always been curious about the Bureau's internal affairs, and tells Ginny that he'll become one of their agents. Ginny smiles and says he made the right decision and that him joining the Bureau will be a huge help. She explains that lately, corporations have been scouting all the awakened, leaving the Bureau severely understaffed. She leans in and whispers that she's heard most people who sign contracts with corporations end up regretting it. She assures him she's not saying this just because she's a Bureau agent. She explains that corporations are still in the early stages of training the awakened and lack proper expertise. In contrast, the Bureau has a long history and extensive experience in training awakened and subjugating inverted worlds. She admits corporations offer better rewards, but their missions are far more dangerous. Ethan understands what she's really saying, that many awakened lose their lives carrying out corporate requests. He's experienced firsthand how corporations sometimes even refuse to pay, forcing him to use violence to get his money. That's what led him to being discovered as an unregistered awakened and hunted by the Bureau for a while. Ginny tells him that his awakened registration will be handled by the IT team and slides him a phone saying it's for business use. Ethan asks what he's supposed to start with. She explains that just like she said before, he'll receive training and be promoted once his abilities are confirmed. Ginny adds that she hopes he gets assigned to Team 1, the team she's part of. Ethan agrees, saying he hopes the same since he owes her from the other world. Even though they clashed many times, it was thanks to her leading the raid on the lab that most of his comrades and he himself survived. As they finish their conversation, Nyan suddenly says something feels strange. She asks how Ethan is having such a natural conversation with an NPC. She thought players couldn't communicate like that with NPCs. When she went through this mission, Jinny was completely cold, like a robot. Mr. Sung asks if Jinny might have been upgraded to a fully adoptable AI capable of responding freely to any situation or request. Unlike normal NPCs, such an AI could communicate seamlessly. He explains that this kind of technology consumes massive resources, and most people believe it's impossible to implement in an online game. Nyan asks if the devs might have solved the resource problem. Mr. Sung says if they had, it would have made major headlines. He believes there must be a specific condition to unlock these AI features, something like starting with 0 combat correction. Nyan asks if this could stir up the forums again. Mr. Sung says he'll be personally staying up, waiting to see what Planet Earth announces. Nyan suddenly remembers someone who was deeply interested in Reverse Planet's story and knows she'd be fascinated by this too. Maybe they could even invite a huge figure as a guest in the future because of this. Mr. Sung asks if this is where Ethan's stream will end today. Nyan says yes and tells viewers to look forward to the next stream if they want more. For now, they're switching to PvP content. In the battle prep room, Ethan wonders why Anonymous Viewer 62 still hasn't appeared. When he agreed to stream with Nyan, he told her to immediately inform him if there were any donations or comments from someone named Anonymous Viewer 62. He tells Nyan he's ready for the PvP segment, and Nyan announces that Ethan will be playing Showdown. She adds that this is his first time playing it. Mr. Sung says that means he'll have to go through the normal league first. There are 8 total ranks in Reverse Planet. To reach bronze, a player needs 10 wins in the normal league. Mr. Sung explains that statistically, pro players take around 30 minutes, while average players take about 2 hours. A viewer sets a challenge for Ethan to hit bronze within 30 minutes for $400. Nyan's eyes turn into dollar signs. She instantly tells Ethan to go on a 10-game win streak under 30 minutes. Ethan flashes an OK sign. Nyan says things just got insanely exciting, and Mr. Sung agrees. The match starts immediately. Mr. Sung notices Ethan is using a weapon he's never seen before. His opponent assumes he's facing a melee build and thinks he'll win easily as long as he keeps his distance. The round starts, the opponent begins using his skill, and before he can finish, he's cut into 4 pieces. The round ends instantly. As soon as the next round starts, the opponent calls Ethan a stupid smurf and surrenders. In the second game, Ethan slices apart a barrage of shadow spears before cutting his opponent in half, winning 2-0 again. The third match is another melee player who gets destroyed immediately. The fourth match is no different, and neither are the ones that follow. Just like that, Ethan takes less than 20 minutes to reach bronze tier. Nyan feels like she's being robbed somehow. Mr. Sung can't believe his eyes, and neither can the chat. He says while the speed of ranking up is insane, what's even shocking is Ethan's match record. Usually, players struggle when facing counters or risky builds, but Ethan doesn't care what his opponent brings. In every match, he delivers a flawless performance. The $400 gets paid out, and Nyan thanks the viewer for the donation. She's excited to see how Ethan performs in ranked games. Mr. Sung says he's a little worried. Nyan asks what he means. He explains that since they're streaming, it'll be easy for people to stream snipe Ethan, but even so, he believes it won't be easy to succeed, so his worries might be unfounded. A chatter immediately says Mr. Sung just jinxed it. As soon as the first ranked game starts, the opponent announces that he succeeded. He points at Ethan, calls him a shameless prick, and tells the chat to watch him as he destroys the hacker, Ethan. Ethan casually pulls out his weapon. Mr. Sung says Ethan doesn't seem affected by the taunts at all. Nyan says she already told Ethan to ignore things like this when they happen. She's about to say something else, but the fight starts. Ethan's opponent activates some kind of electric skill and jumps at Ethan, screaming for him to die. Ethan dodges every single hit. He was curious how strong this guy was after seeing all that confidence, but it turns out to be a waste of time. Ethan ends the fight with a single swing. When the next round starts, the opponent frantically starts fiddling with something, realizing he's about to lose and needs to use his trump card. As the second round starts, Ethan notices his opponent's atmosphere has changed. He explodes forward at Ethan. Ethan notes that his opponent's attacks are much sharper and heavier than before, and his movements are extremely efficient, just like an advanced sentinel. His opponent laughs and asks if Ethan finally gets the difference between them, saying he was just going easy on him in the first round. Nyan says she already told Ethan to completely destroy anyone who calls him a hacker, but it looks like Ethan isn't planning to do what she said. His opponent suddenly freezes, sensing a shift in Ethan's aura, but quickly reassures himself there's nothing to fear. He's convinced he still has the advantage, so he moves forward, mocking Ethan and telling hacker Ethan to stop acting cool. Ethan steps forward and casually passes him, cutting him as he goes. The opponent spins around to attack, charging straight at him, but Ethan appears behind him and slices off his arm. He transfers his power to the other arm, which Ethan immediately cuts off too, leaving his opponent on the floor in tears. Nyan asks what is even happening. Mr. Sung says he's not sure either. Nyan notices that Ethan isn't finishing his opponent on purpose. Mr. Sung says Ethan is thoroughly following Nyan's advice. Nyan admits she told him to completely destroy anyone who calls him a hacker. The chat says Nyan is the reason this monster was created. The opponent screams, asking what the hell Ethan even is. Ethan calmly replies that he doesn't owe him an answer. He finishes the opponent and wins the match. After that, he keeps going with unstoppable momentum, winning 30 matches in a row. Nyan announces that he's already reached gold rank. Mr. Sung says he never imagined someone would hit a 30-win streak on their first stream. Nyan notices a comment asking for Ethan's build. She thinks most people wouldn't want to reveal it, but decides to ask him anyway. She asks if she can show his build to the viewers and tells him he can refuse if he wants. Ethan says he doesn't care. She announces to everyone that Ethan agreed to reveal his build. Then they quickly end the stream while bowing deeply. Mr. Sung says the stream was absolutely insane, a fully adaptive AI and a 30-win streak ending with a build reveal announcement. Nyan says at this rate, Ethan is going to beat the world record. She asks what the current record even is. Mr. Sung quickly looks it up and says the showdown mode record is 76 wins in a row, held by Battler on his Smurf account. Nyan says she hopes Ethan beats it. Mr. Sung says Battler is probably already watching since he's known for being extremely competitive. Meanwhile, Battler is browsing the forums when his eyes land on a thread about one of Ethan's first opponents. The author says the opponent got destroyed in the first round that turned into a completely different player in the next round, so they reported him. The report result says the player was permanently banned for using unauthorized programs. Battler scrolls to the comments and sees people saying that even Battler wouldn't stand a chance against Ethan. He starts laughing, saying the comments are hilarious. A few days later, on the second stream, Ethan notices that anonymous viewer 62 still hasn't appeared and wonders if he needs to do something to make them come back. Ginny calls out to him, waving and telling him to come over. She says this is his first practical mission and asks if he's nervous. Ethan tells her he's fine. As soon as he logged into the game, he received a new mission assigned by Ginny. He thinks it's nice that he gets to skip the training phase. Ethan asks what the mission is about. She explains that he has to eliminate the invading entities and close the space. She says this area was abandoned by the League of Enterprises. She explains that the Bureau doesn't say anything to the League because they're sometimes helpful, but the moment they realize they can't gain much from something, they just throw it away. In the mission details, Ethan sees that the invading entities are insect type. They're weak but annoying because of their numbers. As they walk further in, a sergeant salutes them and asks if they're the awakened from the Bureau. Ginny shows her ID and they're allowed inside. Ginny says she's never seen a portal appear in an abandoned factory before. Ethan feels something familiar about this place. He's seen it in the other world, but he clearly remembers it being a medium-sized portal, not a small one. He wonders if there's been a mistake. Ginny asks if we should go in immediately. Suddenly, someone interrupts, asking what brought Senior Agent Ginny to such a small-scale subjugation. It's an awakened affiliated with Shin Electronics named Henry. Ginny asks what Henry is doing there. Henry says he's just as shocked and didn't expect their missions to overlap. She asks what he means since they already gave up on this place and threw it away. She asks what he's plotting. Henry changes the topic and asks who's with her, then asks if Ethan is a new guy. He tells Ethan he shouldn't waste his time in the Bureau and should join a big corporation instead. Ginny tells Henry not to cross the line, giving him a cold stare. Henry jumps back, saying he's just joking, and tells them he'll leave this inverted world to them before walking away. Ethan asks who that guy was. Ginny says it was the first trainee agent she ever worked with. Ever since he left the Bureau after being scouted by the League of Enterprises, he's been spreading fake rumors about the Bureau. As she explains, she offers Ethan a candy. Mr. Sung says, isn't this the first time their relationship has been shown in this much detail? Nayan agrees, saying it was only mentioned before that something bad had happened between them. Mr. Sung says they're getting a deeper story thanks to the fully adaptive AI. Inside the game, Ginny and Ethan enter the portal. Outside, Henry watches and says Ginny went in, then licks his lips and says it's time to start our work. 20 minutes later, inside the inverted world, Ethan wipes blood from his cheek. Ginny is in front of him, bleeding out, the candy she gave him lying right beside her on the ground. Earlier, as they stepped through the portal, Ginny explains that the one behind them leads back to Reverse Planet, and the one ahead leads to the inverted world. Ethan says he gets it, since it works the same way as the other world. Suddenly, the ground shakes. Ethan wonders if it's just a phenomenon, but the portal in front of them starts swallowing them and they're pulled inside. Ethan looks around and realizes he's been separated from Ginny. He remembers that paths often collapse when hit by external forces. For now, he has to focus on wiping out these pests before going to look for her. Meanwhile, Ginny activates echoing thunder, striking the ground and sending lightning in every direction, wiping out the insects. But they just keep coming. Plus, the forest feels more like a mid-scale Reverse Planet than a small one. Something is definitely off. She hopes Ethan is okay when Henry sneaks up behind her. She senses him, but it's too late. His strike cuts her deeply. Ginny counters, but Henry jumps back, laughing. She demands to know what he's doing. Henry says this is a secret mission, that he's just following orders, and asks her not to hate him as his friends emerge from the bushes. Ginny realizes her wound is too deep and that she needs to get out of there. She fires an electric attack at the enemies surrounding her. One of them uses a stone skill to form a wall, but it explodes on impact, letting Ginny run past. Henry orders his lackeys to chase her. While running, she uses her ability again, forming a spear, spinning and throwing it at them. It lands at their feet and explodes. She spots a hole in the ground and hides inside as the attackers run past. After they leave, she comes out, thinking she'd have been done for if not for that hole. Meanwhile, Ethan finishes dealing with the insects on his side. He senses Ginny's presence nearby and thinks something must have happened. Seeing multiple footprints, he hears a scream behind him and immediately bolts toward it. When he arrives, he sees Ginny captured by a monster. He jumps in, slashes the monster in a second, and lands on the ground before Ginny can fall. He catches her and sets her down near a tree, asking if she's okay. Ethan thinks there's no way someone as skilled as her would lose to some bugs. Her injury is clearly from a skill attack, and the only person that comes to mind is Henry. He asks her if it was him, and she confirms it was. Nayeon says it looks like they arrived right after the phenomenon, but something feels off since Henry usually waits to ambush. The chat agrees, saying Ginny got attacked way too early. Nayeon asks if this is also because of the AI. Mr. Sung says that's the only conclusion they can reach right now. Ginny explains that she managed to lose them, but they could return at any moment. Plus, if she uses her skills again, it will reveal their location. She tells Ethan to get out of there quickly. Ethan cuts her off, telling her to hold on and that he'll take care of them. Ginny refuses, saying he can't. Henry is a veteran awakened, someone Ethan can't handle alone, especially with teammates. Ethan says he'll be fine and that he has a plan. At a cliff, Henry and the others wonder where Ginny disappeared to. Since she's injured, she couldn't have gone far. He tells the others to search along the creek and says he'll go get the target himself. Suddenly, he senses someone behind him and swings. Ethan, acting terrified, tells Henry to wait. Henry asks if Ethan isn't Ginny's junior. Ethan pretends the path collapsed and that he got separated from Ginny, then asks Henry to help him. The chat says his acting is 10 out of 10. The dumb Henry willingly walks closer, saying he'll explain everything. He activates his skill, saying Ethan will be able to see Ginny again after dying. The sound of flesh being impaled echoes as Ethan drives his knife into Henry. It was already too late when Henry realized what was happening. He drops to his knees, clutching his chest as Ethan quickly steps back, leaving Henry's lackeys completely confused. They ask what happened, and when they notice the knife wound in Henry's chest, Ethan is already gone, vanishing into the woods. One guy tells the other to go after Ethan while he helps Henry. The guy chases him, unable to sense or see Ethan anywhere nearby, while Ethan watches from the treetops right above him. The guy mutters that Ethan couldn't have gone too far, looking around nervously. Hearing a rustle above him, Ethan lands behind him. The guy looks up, saying the sound startled him and that it was probably just a bird. Ethan drives his knife into his neck, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, the other lackey is still trying to help Henry, telling him to wake up, saying he's managed to stop the bleeding, but they still need to get him treated fast. Suddenly, a knife falls from the sky, landing straight in Henry's chest again, making him cough up massive amounts of blood. The lackey turns around, cursing Ethan as he walks toward him. He asks where his comrade went, the one who chased Ethan. Ethan doesn't answer, but the guy notices the sword in Ethan's hand and realizes what happened. He quickly uses his skill, creating a barrage of rock projectiles and firing them at Ethan. Ethan slices through all of them with ease. The guy shouts that he's not done yet and uses another skill, creating a mud avalanche. Ethan quickly retreats into the forest, spots a tree, kicks it, snapping it in half, and uses it as support to hide behind another tree. The attacker calls Ethan a monster and ambushes him with a sharp stone pillar from below, managing to cut Ethan's hand slightly. Ethan immediately charges forward. The attacker creates more stone projectiles, yelling at Ethan to stay back. Ethan cuts them in half, bursts forward, and kills the lost attacker. The attacker mutters that this should be impossible before dying. The chat goes crazy at his victory. Nyan asks if he really just took out 3 corporate hunting dogs like it was nothing. Chatters ask how he's even facing them when they're supposed to be enemies in later missions. Ethan thinks that he still got injured even after ambushing 2 of them and realizes he's still lacking compared to when he was in the other world. He walks over to the bodies to check them and finds a phone with a message detailing when Ethan and Ginny would enter the portal, with orders to capture or kill them. He doesn't find much else and decides to leave the investigation to the Bureau. He also picks up some PvP items, the Dagger of Sharp Return, an extremely sharp dagger that returns to the user's hand the moment they wish for it, the Bracelet of the Winner, which reduces ability cooldowns and increases ability power, and the Hermit's Necklace, a PvE item used to store equipment-type items. Ethan thinks it's nice that he can instantly see item abilities now, since in the other world he had to estimate everything through endless trial and error. He throws all the items into his inventory, saying he has more urgent matters right now. He needs to clear the inverted world and leave before Ginny's wounds get worse. Meanwhile, on Ginny's side, she looks up at a towering scorpion drooling right in front of her, the capital entity known as the Emperor Scorpion. She mutters about how unlucky she is, then takes it back, saying she should consider herself fortunate because if this thing had gone after her junior, Ethan, instead, she wouldn't be able to live with it. She starts using her lightning skill, saying she has to deal with the scorpion on her own. Just as the scorpion is about to grab her with its claws, it suddenly collapses to the ground. As the smoke clears, she sees a silhouette standing on top of the scorpion. It's Ethan. He asks if she's all right. Chatters ask if Ginny was really planning to fight a capital-class entity in her current condition. The inverted world starts creaking. Ginny asks if Ethan really took out the hunting dogs by himself. Ethan tells her to hold the questions and asks her to get on his back so they can get out of there. Nyan asks if the world is closing before the exit because the path was destroyed earlier. Mr. Sung says she's right and that they need to escape fast before they get swept away. Ethan tells Ginny to hold on tight and speeds up. They manage to escape safely and complete the raid. At the Dimensional Management Bureau headquarters, Team Leader Kim asks if it's true that Ginny was injured due to an ambush by another Awakened. Ethan confirms it. Kim says the corporations crossed a line this time and asks what happened to the attackers. Ethan says he killed them all. Kim looks surprised, asking if Ethan did it alone and how that was even possible, but then remembers the sea of dead guards surrounding Ethan when they first found him and drops the question. He then asks if they found any evidence. Kim slides over Henry's phone, saying there are indications Henry was instructed through text messages, but everything else is locked behind security. Kim tells Ethan he did a great job and that this will greatly help their investigation. He asks Ethan to get some rest and let them handle the rest. Ethan nods and prepares to leave, but Kim stops him. He assures Ethan that there will be more chances to do what he wants in the future and tells him to lay low and cool down until then, asking if he understands what he means. Ethan says he does, then leaves, finishing the mission. Nyan announces that Ethan's first mission is now complete. Mr. Sung says it was far more spectacular than we anticipated. Nyan says I'm sure the viewers are satisfied, judging by their reactions, but then she notices a message from anonymous viewer 62 saying that Ethan has passed the first test. She quickly messages Ethan saying they just got a $2,000 donation from anonymous viewer 62. She sends him screenshots of the donations and the message about a special mission, asking him to finish the stream first. Ethan remembers that this person said something similar last time too. He wonders if that means the special mission will be revealed after the stream. He thanks Nyan and says he'll continue with the stream. Mr. Sung whispers to Nyan asking if everything's alright after seeing her spaced out. She wonders if Mr. Sung didn't see the donation from anonymous viewer 62, then cheers up again and announces they're moving on to the PvP segment. She reminds everyone that Ethan won 30 games in a row last time, gaining huge popularity in the PvP community. Mr. Sung asks what the PvP theme is today. Nyan says it's Warfare, a team-based 5v5 mode where the first team to win 2 rounds takes the match. Chat isn't happy because they wanted to watch Ethan in duels instead. Nyan expected this reaction but figures they'll change their minds once they see it, so she proceeds anyway. They start with PvP mode Escort. 4 other players spawn in with Ethan. Mr. Sung explains that in this mode, the attacking team has to push the payload to the destination, while the defense team tries to stop them. Nyan says this is Ethan's first time playing a 5v5 team game and wonders how he'll perform. The round starts and the team begins pushing the payload while Ethan follows from behind. Suddenly, he stops and starts backing off. Nyan says he might be going for a lurk. Mr. Sung says players usually stick together, but it's not a bad choice when someone has the skills to back it up like Ethan, though dealing with 5 players alone isn't easy. Ethan suddenly moves like a speed demon toward the enemies. He jumps off a rooftop and immediately throws a knife, killing one instantly. One player calms to the others that they're getting flanked, but his head explodes as Ethan lands behind him. Now only 3 are left. One of them tells the other 2 to hold Ethan back while he stops the payload. Ethan pulls out his sword. His teammates see the kill feed suddenly pop off and ask what's happening, and then the round ends. Chat laughs at his teammates' reactions. Nyan says she expected Ethan to carry, but he ended the game instantly. Mr. Sung says it feels like Ethan is moving faster than usual too. He asks if Ethan has somewhere to be after the stream. Nyan says she doesn't know and quickly changes the subject, clearly knowing what's really going on. Ethan's onslaught continues in 3 other modes as well. In Deathmatch, he kills everyone. In Control, he solo scales the wall and wipes the enemies by himself. In Capture the Flag, he kills everyone before capturing the flag. Anonymous Viewer 62 donates another $2,000, saying Ethan's special mission is to open a new system in Reverse Planet by progressing through the game. Nyan quickly tells Ethan about the message and asks what they should do with all this money, maybe a viewer event, a dinner party, or new equipment. Ethan tells her to just send him the screenshots first. He wonders what that means. The only clue he has is that he needs to keep playing, whether PvE or PvP. Ethan takes a deep breath, thinking he doesn't really want to follow what this anonymous person is saying, but he feels like he has no choice. A few days later, on his 3rd stream, he walks into the Dimensional Management Bureau training facility. He got a message from Jenny saying she probably can't teach him for a while because of her injuries. She said she found a substitute for him and will introduce them when he comes to the training room. Nyan wonders who the substitute will be. Mr. Sung says it has to be someone famous, considering it's for Ethan. Chot guesses it might be team leader Kim, or Hana, or Jang. Ginny waves at Ethan, still wrapped in bandages. Ethan asks if she's doing all right. Ginny says she's doing great thanks to you, but she still can't teach him herself. She points to Ethan's substitute trainer. The girl introduces herself as Hana. Ethan introduces himself too. He remembers Hana from the other world. She was right behind team leader Kim in skill, basically second strongest in the Dimensional Management Bureau. Things got dangerous whenever he met her as an enemy back then. Ginny says she should head back now since she snuck out to be there. Hana says Ginny told her she had permission. Ginny asks if she really said that before fleeing. Hana tells her to stop sneaking out during treatment. After Ginny leaves, there's an awkward silence for a moment. Then Hana clears her throat and says she heard Ethan uses swords. She asks if he uses a long sword or short sword. Ethan says he uses both. Hana says she needs to check Ethan's skill level and asks if they should start with a duel. Mr. Sung says what's going on? Nyan asks if something's wrong. Mr. Sung says he's just confused by how things are progressing. Nyan asks if it's not common for sword users to spar. Mr. Sung says that's true, but this doesn't happen for all sword users. It only happened to Ethan. Chat says maybe it's because he doesn't have any abilities. Mr. Sung says this is a completely different flow of the story compared to other players. He wonders if the game can progress with a completely different storyline depending on the player's actions, just like real life. Hannah says they will spar using only swords and no abilities. Ethan replies that that's impossible for him since his ability is constant body enhancement that's always active. Hannah says that's fine and she'll just tone her abilities down instead. She counts down and immediately rushes in with an aggressive upward slash. Ethan twists his body and strikes back, pushing her back slightly, but she instantly lunges forward with a shoulder slam. Mr. Sung says Hana isn't someone to underestimate and that she's extremely strong. Nyan adds that Hana is using the God of Wind build. Sung says that's technically true since the God of Wind build was inspired by Hana herself. He also points out that Ethan is seriously impressive with the sword because he's keeping up with her speed. Ethan realizes she isn't just fast, she's targeting his openings with precision. Hana says she underestimated him and decides to take things more seriously. She thrusts her sword forward at full power, causing a wind explosion at the tip. When the wind clears, she says she knew he would dodge it, just like she expected. She tells him he's way better than she thought. Ethan nods in thanks and thinks that in a real battle, his chances of winning would be less than 20%. She asks who taught him swordsmanship. Ethan says he's self-taught. She's shocked that he reached this level on his own and tells him to follow her because she has something to show him. She takes him to the Bureau's armory. Support team leader Hyunwoo says it looks like Ethan needs a proper weapon. Hana agrees and says there's no reason for him to keep using weapons without abilities. Hyunwoo tells them to take their time choosing and then leaves. Hana tells Ethan to go ahead and pick whatever he wants. After browsing for a while, Ethan feels like nothing there is useless, but nothing stands out to him either. Then he notices the vampiric spear Dragos, which absorbs blood from the blade to heal the user and grants control over blood. But then he spots something even more interesting, a greatsword called Soul Eater, also known as the Sword of Eternal Death. It has 5 abilities instead of the usual 2, although 2 of them are currently sealed. The sword cannot be destroyed, its sharpness increases with the number of souls it devours, and it heals the user based on the damage dealt. Ethan wonders why a weapon like this is here since he's seen it on the black market in the other world. It was one of his favorite weapons there. Hana asks if he likes that sword. Ethan says he does. Hana finds it interesting that he chose a 2-handed weapon and takes out her phone to request the transfer of ownership. Nyan asks if they weren't supposed to give him a weapon with 2 abilities at this stage, not a 5-ability weapon right from the start. The chat agrees. A donation says this sword could become best in slot once all its abilities are unlocked. Mr. Sung says this isn't the first time Ethan has received an item that's impossible for his current stage. The Hermit's necklace he got in his last stream was also a mid-game item. He reminds everyone that the game gives rewards strictly based on risk. The harder the challenge, the greater the reward. Nyan asks if he got the necklace because he defeated the hunting dog on his first mission. Sung says she's right and that Ethan did everything flawlessly, from escaping the research facility to sparring with Hana. Nyan says that makes sense now. Sung says they should get back to watching. Hana finishes transferring ownership of Soul Eater to Ethan. She suggests they go on a quick raid now that he finally has a proper weapon. A little later, at the top of a mountain, the 2 of them step through a portal. Hana says she never expected a portal to be at the top of a mountain and that she's already warmed up from all the climbing. She curses the soldier who told her it was just a small mountain. Then she tells Ethan that this portal has wolf-type invading entities. She explains that these creatures have strong territorial intensities, so they'll start swarming soon. Ethan says everything should be fine as long as they're not above B rank. Hana says she'll step in if things get dangerous and that she'll just observe for now. Ethan summons Soul Eater and says I understand. He hears the wolves getting closer and takes his stance. As soon as they come into range, he swings with full power, killing them all at once. The sword's sharpness increases. Nyan says he swings that massive sword like it's a feather. Ethan thinks this weapon fits his hand better than any other he's used. Hana asks if the move he just used was the Heavenly Moon Slash. In front of Ethan, elite entities charge at him and he starts cutting them down instantly. Mr. Sung asks where Ethan learned all those martial arts. Nyan says she's never even seen him play sports and wonders if it might be from the Coliseum. A chatter says they'd love to hear about this Coliseum training method. Ethan leaps into the air, dodging a wolf's bite, spins midair, and drives his sword straight into its head. Hana thinks he isn't just excellent in training, but also in real combat. The more enemies he kills, the stronger the sword becomes. Then he senses something approaching and shifts into a defensive stance. A captain-class entity appears, the Silver Wolf. Mr. Sung explains that this is the infamous captain-class monster known as a newbie destroyer because of its speed and size. The wolf slams into Ethan, pushing him back even though he blocks it. Ethan pries the wolf's mouth open, pulls his sword free, and slices through its mouth and nose, breaking a tooth in the process. He jumps back and thinks this thing is definitely much stronger than an elite entity, but still nothing to him. He then slices the wolf's head clean in half. The sword starts absorbing the soul, and since it's a captain-class soul, the increase in power is massive. Hana says this level of performance is exactly what she expected from the Bureau's most anticipated agent. She admits she was considering intervening because the captain-class entity was far stronger than the mission's stated difficulty. Nyan says she thought the same and asks if the mission wasn't listed as F+ to E+, because this felt more like B rank. Mr. Sung agrees and says it was clearly far more challenging than advertised. He wonders if the game difficulty might be affected by a player's past actions. Then Sung asks why the inverted world isn't closing even though the captain-class entity was defeated. Hana says this is clearly abnormal and tells Ethan to follow her so they can find the root cause. After searching for a while, they come across a massive egg. The egg starts cracking open. Hana warns Ethan to be careful since they don't know what might come out. Suddenly, a puppy pops out and starts zooming around, completely confusing everyone. Hana says she's never seen an otherworldly entity that wasn't hostile toward humans. Ethan asks if he should kill it. Hana admits that's standard protocol, but says it's cute, and since this isn't a normal situation, they should take it to the lab and let the researchers study it instead. Ethan says he understands and grabs the puppy by the neck. The inverted world finally begins to collapse. Back at Bureau HQ, the researchers say they've never seen a case like this either, but their analysis shows the creature isn't an otherworldly life form. Hana asks what it is then. The researchers say it's more like a summoned entity created from an ability. Hana points out that neither of them has such an ability. The researchers speculate that the summon may have originated from the inverted world itself, not from either of them. Hana asks if the Bureau will protect the creature. The researchers say the ownership imprint has already been completed according to regulations. They explain they can't offer protection to a living creature whose imprint is already finished. Ethan receives the lightning wolf as a pet. Right after that, a server announcement pops up saying maintenance will begin in 5 minutes for an update. Nyan asks what this means. She points out that Ethan just acquired a pet, which is a system that didn't exist before, and now there's suddenly an update. Sung says it feels way too forced to be a coincidence. Nyan asks if the game is going into emergency maintenance because Ethan just acquired a pet. Chatters tell her to stop overreacting and say it's probably just a coincidence. Nyan and Mr. Sung end the stream and tell everyone to come back for the next one. A man stops the recording and says that even the stream raised the same questions they have. They're inside Planet Earth's US conference room. A woman asks if Ethan is the same person who discovered the fully adaptive AI that even the devs didn't know about. Another man confirms it is and says they've been watching him for some time now. Sophia, the head developer of Reverse Planet, asks who they're supposed to explain this system update to when even the dev team didn't know about it. The man says they should already know the only person capable of doing this is Isaac, the former head developer of Reverse Planet and a known genius who is currently missing. Sophia thinks that weirdo went into hiding on purpose, but she never expected him to shut down the server and update the game on his own. She then asks about something called Deuce. Another dev says they've been trying to wake it up but haven't gotten any response. Deuce is the AI Isaac created to help with game development, and it stopped functioning as soon as Isaac disappeared. Sophia tells them to comb through the source code to see if there are any new files they don't recognize. She says they'll be in serious trouble if something like this happens again. A dev asks if they can really find something like that in the code if Isaac didn't want them to. Sophia cuts him off, shouting that they have to find him at all costs. She also orders them to put Ethan at the top of the priority management list and keep monitoring his live streams so they can take immediate action if anything happens. Sophia grits her teeth, thinking she doesn't know what Isaac is planning, but she's not letting a single thing go his way. Meanwhile, in a binary waterfall, a holographic hand reaches inside, making everything start to disappear. Anonymous Viewer 62 donates $3,500, saying Ethan did well and that this is his reward for completing a special mission. They add that for his next mission, he will need a comrade he can trust. The next day, at a cafe, while Nyan is yapping about something, Ethan keeps staring at Anonymous Viewer 62, wondering what they're plotting. Almost all of his special missions have been tied to the system. He starts thinking this person has to be a developer or at least someone connected to the company since they're clearly messing with the code. Nyan brings up Anonymous Viewer 62 and asks if he thinks this person works at the game company, since it was suspicious how the servers went into maintenance the exact moment he got a pet. Ethan says it has to be a coincidence and asks why a game company would care about some random streamer. He then asks what the big news was that she wanted to tell him in person. Nyan says he got a recruitment offer from the Reverse Planet Cup. The Reverse Planet Cup is Reverse Planet's biggest PvP tournament, and they usually recruit streamers, famous influencers, or retired pro players. Ethan asks why they'd want him there, as a coach no less. Nyan says it's because he's the center of attention right now, and there's a role called an official support coach in the Reverse Planet Cup. She says they probably thought it was more appropriate to invite someone of his caliber as a coach rather than a player. She asks if he isn't going to participate and show his skills as a coach. He asks if she wants to take in disciples. She says he's right, and if he's willing, she'll prepare everything for him. Ethan says he'll do it, thinking about his special mission. Nyan jumps up, asking if he's serious and saying this would help our team too. She immediately starts multitasking, saying she'll tell them he's going before he changes his mind. A few days later on stream, Nyan and Sung welcome the viewers and say they have an important announcement before starting. Nyan says Ethan will be participating in the SSR Cup as a coach. Mr. Sung asks if being good at the game and coaching are completely different. Nyan agrees, but since his current tier is relatively low, he needs to focus on climbing ranks today. Mr. Sung agrees and says if he wants to save face as a coach, being in a higher rank is a must. A chatter asks if Ethan is gold in all modes. Sung pulls up the ranks, and Nyan explains that they went on a duo streak in survival mode before, and since they won 10 games in a row, he can start playing ranked right away. Someone sets a mission for Ethan to get 40 kills or more without using any weapons for $2,000. Nyan quickly forwards the info to Ethan. He accepts the mission and gets ready to start. The game begins and he spawns out the military base just like last time. He immediately starts listening for sounds and realizes there are about 19 players nearby. He thinks he needs to hurry if he wants to hit over 40 kills. He drops into a runner's stance and bursts forward, zooming through the map and punching anyone and everyone around him, leaving everyone shocked. His kill feed goes wild, and when he's done, he has 18 of the 19 kills in that area. He clears the outskirts and decides to move toward the center. A few minutes later, only 2 players remain. The last guy is sitting in a corner. Ethan arrives and ambushes him from behind, but the opponent dodges and slides back, raising his fists, ready to fight. Mr. Sung says Ethan's opponent is also using a body enhancement build just like him. Nyan says this is the first time we've seen that, and the guy's kill log is insane too. She says he has 15 kills so far. Ethan has 39 kills and needs just one more to reach 40. They start fighting. The opponent dodges Ethan's punch and counters. Ethan kicks his opponent, sending him sliding back. The opponent rises again, clicking his tongue. Mr. Sung says this fight could be compared to a professional martial arts match. Nyan wonders who Ethan's opponent is. Chatters say it has to be a pro on a Smurf account. The opponent jumps forward. Ethan steps in and says it's time to end this, then lands a 1-inch punch, sending the opponent flying. The opponent says, I expected I couldn't beat Ethan with a build I wasn't used to. He says he had fun and hopes we can have a proper fight next time. Ethan wonders what that was about. The match ends with Ethan winning with 40 kills. Mr. Sung says Ethan hit the goal and completed the mission. Greedy Nyan asks if the person who set the mission is still in chat. The donation comes in and Nyan thanks them. Nyan says we should keep this momentum going and keep ranking up. Viewers ask why her eyes have dollar signs. Ethan goes on a 98-game win streak on stream and reaches Master Tier in all modes. Meanwhile, in a random living room, a girl scrolling through the game community sees a thread about Ethan looking for disciples for the tournament. She asks her little brother if he saw the thread about Ethan's tryouts and if they should apply too. Her name is Arum, a game streamer. Her brother says he already applied and that he's the older one between them. His name is Don, also a game streamer. She says he applied pretty fast and asks why he didn't apply with her big sister while he was at it. He says he's right and that he should have cared a bit more about her, calling her little sis. They're twins in case you haven't figured it out yet. At Planet Earth HQ in America, inside Sophia's office, she looks at something about Deus. A few days later, about 5 minutes before Ethan's stream, he picks up the wolf pup and checks its skills. It has bite, howl, and tumble. He thinks it's basically useless for him. Nyan says it doesn't look any different from other pets. She then tells him that she and Mr. Sung narrowed down the list of applicants to be his students since too many people applied, and asks if he can take a look later by playing some PvE with them before deciding. Ethan says he'll do it later. Mr. Sung tells Nyan to get ready since the stream is about to start. Nyan tells Ethan to start when she gives him the cue. Ethan wonders if he should just send the puppy home, but looking at its cute, happy face, he hesitates, then sends it away anyway. A few minutes later, Nyan gives him the signal and he starts. Immediately, he receives a message on his company phone, multiple distress calls about a large-scale rampage incident. Nyan says the story just went off the rails. A reverse planet rampage is when the other world breaks through the boundaries of reverse planet that normally contain invading entities, causing them to pour out. When a rampage happens, the invading entities cross over to Earth and start attacking. Ethan wonders if the dimensional war is about to intensify. He receives a mission to eliminate the invading entities and respond to the large-scale rampage incident. Hana calls out to him from far away. She says she got the vehicle ready and they're leaving immediately. When they reach the site, there are monster corpses and human bodies everywhere. Hana says it looks like they were too late. She adds that the agents who arrived earlier must have eliminated the goblins, and these ones were probably chasing fleeing civilians. She says she trusts Ethan to work independently and suggests they split up. Ethan nods as Hana runs off, telling him to be careful. Ethan says I should get moving too. A civilian is running while being chased by a group of goblins. Ethan's chain sickle flies forward, lodging into a goblin's head, and he uses the momentum to launch himself onto another goblin. Then he sends the sickle forward again, slicing the lost goblin in half. Chat says his chain looks like it has its own will. The civilian asks who he is, and he tells her he's an agent with the Bureau. He tells her to head down the path to reach safety. She thanks him and runs off. Ethan wonders if that was the last victim. He thinks he needs to kill the captain-class entity as soon as possible to stop more monsters from swarming out. Something attacks him from behind. He jumps back and says it's nice of the captain-class entity to come to him on its own. He sends the sickle at the red goblin, but it snaps it away. Ethan notices something else in the forest behind the red goblin. The goblin charges at Ethan. For a moment, it looks like Ethan is being pushed back. Nyan asks what's going on and why Ethan isn't countering. Mr. Sung says it looks like Ethan's attention is on something else, not his opponent. Ethan's chain snaps as he uses it to block another hit. The goblin attacks again, but it's cut in half before it can land another blow. Ethan sees that the other entity still isn't coming out. He tells it to come out on its own. When it steps out, it becomes clear that it's a dimensional invader. These beings come from the other world and go by many names, like demons or otherworlders. Sung and Nyan say that invaders aren't supposed to appear until very late game, so even seeing one is insane. The invader takes a fighting stance. Ethan thinks he's never seen an invader come out like this before. He throws his weapon aside and prepares for hand-to-hand combat. The two stare at each other for a few seconds before Ethan makes the first move. He steps forward and throws a punch. The invader dodges and counters. Ethan bobs and weaves to dodge the blows. Mr. Sung says this fight reminds anyone of their last fight in survival mode. Nyan says she's not sure. Chat agrees with Nyan, saying all bare-knuckle fights look the same. Ethan realizes that at first he thought he was close, but now he understands. This invader is imitating his movements. Back in the other world, the lab created a special sentinel modeled after him to kill him. This feels just like that, except this one is sloppier. He grabs the invader by the head and slams it into the ground. Chat says they're almost starting to feel bad for the invader. Ethan raises his fists and starts crushing it with continuous punches. He thinks that someone is doing the same thing the lab did in the old world and wonders who it could be. He considers whether it's the League of Enterprises or someone from the invaders, but then remembered a player imitated him in PvP the same way. That means it's someone who might be involved with the game system itself. He wonders if it's Anonymous Viewer 62 again. P.S. Ethan did leave the puppy out a little longer earlier so it could play. Hana arrives nearby, snapping him out of his thoughts. She asks if he's done with his work, then notices the corpses of the invader and the captain-class entity. She immediately reports it to the Bureau, asking them to send someone to retrieve the bodies and survey the area for more invaders. She tells Ethan he did a great job and that she was right to trust him. Ethan says Hana did a great job too and asks what happened at the other locations. She says everything is under control now. She says they should head back once the cleanup team arrives. The mission he received is now completed. Back at the Bureau, he gets called to Kim's office again. Kim says they're going straight to the main point and that Ethan was called in to talk about the invader he killed. He explains that the researchers found this invader was completely different from anything they've seen before. He says it's safe to say it's almost a different species. Kim says that's why he wanted to hear the situation from Ethan in more detail and asks if he remembers anything special from the incident. Ethan explains everything that happened. Kim looks surprised when he hears that the entity was trying to imitate Ethan's movements. Nayeon wonders why Kim is reacting like that. Sung says it might mean the invader's actions are more serious than they thought. Kim explains that there has never been an invader in history that tried to imitate humans and asks if they're changing their strategy by copying humans now. He says if they succeed, there would be no way to stop their invasion. Ethan thinks it does make sense. If the entities disguise themselves and act in ways that benefit the other world, they could bring chaos to the world while escalating their invasion. And if they come in contact with the League of Enterprises, they wouldn't hesitate to cooperate if it meant profit. Kim sighs, then thanks Ethan for stopping another huge incident. He says there's still a lot to investigate, but Ethan has done a great job so far. He says he's more than horrified to have this item as he slides a box toward him. Ethan checks what's inside the box and leaves the room. As soon as he walks out, Ginny calls out to him, saying they haven't seen each other in a while. Ethan asks what she's doing there. She says she came to congratulate him. She asks if Tilnator Kim gave him the official agent badge after seeing the box. Ginny says it's tradition for a senior to pin the badge on a junior who's been promoted from trainee. Hana says her assigned mentor was supposed to do it, but since Ginny's hands are injured, Hana will do it instead. Hana pins the badge on Ethan and congratulates him on becoming a full-fledged agent. Chot asks if this is what they mean by flowers on both sides, and say these two haven't smiled this much throughout his entire playthrough. Ethan thanks them both. Ginny explains that an official agent gets a lot of authority with the title, but the only thing he needs to know for now is that he now has the authority to go on solo operations. Ginny says it's a shame he gets to go on solo missions already since they only got to go on one operation together. Hana says Ginny, the senior, was the one who got the most injured on that mission. Ginny says there was a good reason for that. She changes the subject and tells Ethan that even though he has the authority to go on solo missions, he doesn't always need to and asks him to call her anytime he needs help. Hana says she can help too. Ethan thanks them again. Ginny asks what Ethan is going to do now. Nayeon suddenly pauses the stream and says that's it for today. Chat asks what she means and if she's trying to give them heart attacks by ending out of nowhere. Nayeon says they have to end the stream because Mr. Sung has something scheduled after this. Instead, she says they have a major announcement. She asks if they remember the announcement from a while ago. The auditions are opening soon and they're calling it Superstar N. N stands for nuclear. Chot asks if nuclear is really part of the name. Others say she has terrible naming sense. Mr. Sung says we received a lot of applicants. Nayeon says the selection process is almost done and asks viewers to look forward to the stream they'll be holding soon. A few days later, 10 minutes before the Superstar N stream, Nayeon and Mr. Sung are preparing. One of the twins looks around and sees that streamers from people with 100k subs like LNDB to rookie streamer Shuria were selected and it doesn't seem like fame was a factor at all. Her brother asks her to look at a guy named Blue Whale. She asks, isn't he the clickbait ragebaiter who was talking trash about Ethan, and wonders why they let him in. Her brother says they might have picked him just to put him in his place. She disagrees, saying Ethan wouldn't do something petty like that, and that it's Nayeon who wanted to put him in his place. The stream starts, and Nayeon tells everyone to stand by. Nayeon and Mr. Sung welcome the viewers. Chot immediately notices that the stream background is different from usual. Nayeon explains that this is the disciple audition they announced earlier, so they're in an outdoor studio capable of accommodating a large number of people. She says she'll call Ethan out now since they already have a lot of viewers. Ethan logs in wearing a suit. Chotters say he looks good in a suit. The candidates all stare at him as he walks forward. Before the stream, Ethan had asked Nayeon what kind of content in Reverse Planet requires teammates. She told him it was the raid game mode, which is done in parties. It's one of the biggest PvE contents in Reverse Planet along with Inverse Planet mode. She said they only have to defeat one extremely strong entity in a raid, but because of multiple tricky gimmicks, they need a party. Ethan tells the contestants they should already know I'm here to decide and pick a disciple. He says if they want to be my student, they must follow everything I say, and if they're not confident in doing that, they can leave now. Furthermore, even if they pass the audition, they can be disqualified if they don't follow my instructions. Chat says that's fair. Ethan continues, saying that if they have the will to learn, he guarantees they'll reach master tier with ease. The rage baiter asks if Ethan himself isn't just barely master tier and says he should prove his skills first. Ethan says that's a fair point. He says all 12 of them can fight him at once, and if they land a single hit on him within 10 minutes, they win. If they fail, then Ethan wins. Nyan wonders what he's doing since this wasn't what they agreed to. Ethan tells them that anyone who successfully lands a hit will pass the audition immediately, but he says it would be impossible for them if he didn't give himself a handicap. He draws a small circle around him and says he won't attack, won't fire, and won't leave the circle. Chat asks if he isn't underestimating them a little too much. One of the twins asks if they can attack simultaneously. Ethan says they can use any weapons, abilities, or tactics and tells them to begin. The rage baiter, hiding behind the others, suddenly fires his ability at Ethan out of nowhere, but Ethan just tilts his head and the attack flies past him and explodes behind. The rage baiter demands how Ethan dodged his flame spear so easily, and Ethan tells them they don't have much time, so they should just attack all at once. The others look at each other and rush him together, but Ethan sends them all flying back. One guy says their attacks just don't work on him at all. The girl says she even tried forcing close combat, but that didn't work either. The twins tell them not to give up yet and ask everyone to leave the rest to them. They approach Ethan from completely opposite sides and attack while giving fake comms to confuse him, but Ethan grabs them by the legs and tosses them away. Time runs out and no one manages to hit him. Ethan says this should be enough to prove his skill and asks if anyone still objects. Everyone agrees he's proven himself. Ethan says this only proved his skill and that he'll have to prove his coaching ability over time, then says they should start Superstar N now. He notices Nyan staring at him, clearly expecting something. He sighs and says N means nuclear. Mr. Sung says the auditions are finally kicking off and asks Nyan what the first mission is. Nyan says the first mission is to show their ability control without modifiers. It's a simple mission where participants must last 3 minutes while holding a 150-kilogram barbell with a given build. Chat asks what she means by simple and what build they're using. Mr. Sung explains the build is a body enhancement type that's relatively easy to use without modifiers. It's not as strong as Absolute Being, but it boosts endurance and strength. Nyan shows a picture saying she and Mr. Sung tested it too, and it worked. A chatter jokes that Mr. Sung's soul looked like it left his body in the picture. Nyan says anyone who wants to challenge it must switch their status window to visible mode and asks if there are any questions. The twins ask if there's any benefit to completing the mission first, at the same time. Mr. Sung explains that scores are distributed on a sliding scale based on the order of completion, so faster clears get higher scores. After the first 2 missions, the 4 people with the lowest total scores will be eliminated. Nyan says participants can retry as many times as they want and tells them to feel free to challenge without pressure. However, the time limit for the mission is 30 minutes, including practice. 5 minutes later, everyone is struggling in practice. A donator asks who the casters think will pass first. Ethan says he thinks Aram and Dawn, the twins, will pass first. Nyan says she thinks LNDB will win. Chat points out that everyone is running melee builds and asks if the mission isn't too disadvantageous for ranged users. They ask if the streamers are looking down on ranged builds and why the stream feels biased. Nyan's problem detection sensors activate and says they've got it all wrong. She explains they're not trying to select only melee builds and that the second mission will favor ranged users more, which is why they're not eliminating anyone in the first part. Chat laughs at how nervous she sounds and tells her to calm down. Nyan asks if anyone wants to challenge it yet, and LNDB and the twins step forward to go first. The countdown starts and all 3 begin. 1 minute in, the twins are already telling each other to give up. 2 minutes in, LNDB starts struggling. Chat says LNDB has to pass since he represents all the bombers. Another chatter jokes that LNDB is probably a high school girl who customized their appearance. LNDB fails at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Mr. Sung says he almost had it. The twins pass and Nyan congratulates them as the first 2 to succeed. LNDB asks if he can try again immediately, and Mr. Sung tells him to go ahead. LNDB passes on his second attempt. The rage baiter thinks that if he doesn't make top 6, he's basically eliminated since there aren't many spots left. For him, it would be embarrassing not even making top 4 after all that clickbaiting. Someone else passes in 4th place, and while everyone's distracted, the rage baiter does something in the background. Nyan asks if anyone else wants to go next. The rage baiter says he understands how to do it now. Nyan asks if he wants to try, and he agrees. She tells him to set his status window to visible mode before coming up. Ethan notices something feels off when the guy steps forward. The challenge begins and the guy lifts the barbell, thinking to himself that he's way too smart for his own good. Chat asks if he's really this strong. Ethan watches closely the entire time. Nyan announces that 3 minutes have passed, congratulating him on passing and telling him to go stand with the successful candidates. Ethan cuts her off and asks what the guy is doing. The rage baiter plays down and asks what he means. Ethan asks if he really thought he wouldn't notice him using a modifier. Nyan asks what Ethan means. Others say his modifier shows 0, but it also looks blurry like a JPEG image. Nyan asks if Ethan really thinks this guy is using a modifier. Ethan says that from the moment he stepped onto the platform to how he held the barbell, there were changes unique to the modifier system. He says he noticed because the guy's body movements were being adjusted in real time. Nyan whispers to Ethan again, asking if he's sure, since it would be a serious problem if he's wrong. Ethan says he's certain. Ethan asks the guy to show them the real modifier system instead of the fake one. The guy starts sweating and insists this is the real one, asking what he'll do if he's wrong, threatening that this won't end with just an apology. Ethan says if he's wrong, he'll apologize and quit streaming, and if that's not enough, he'll give the guy the stream revenue too. Then he tells the guy to try adjusting the modifier as it is. The guy grits his teeth and says he'll do it. He suddenly says it's not working and that it might be lagging. Ethan says there's no need for further review and declares him disqualified. The rage baiter gets embarrassed as the comments start flaming him, curses at Ethan's stream, and logs out. Nyan asks if anyone else wants to try now that the minor disturbance is gone. The small streamer says she'd like to go next. After that, in the chaotic atmosphere, the auditions continue, and just as everyone expected, the second mission heavily favors ranged builds, with them ending up in the top spots. Those who don't make it leave while thanking them for letting them participate. Mr. Sung says that concludes the individual missions. From here, it's team battles. Nyan says they'll start with a 4v4 battle, then split the winning team into 2 and have them fight again. There's Team A and Team B, balanced based on their scores from the individual missions. A donator asks what the team mission is. Nyan says she'll explain. The team that defeats the most intermediate sentinels within 10 minutes wins. The sentinels spawn every minute across the field they're standing on. Each team gets 2 chances, and the higher score will be recorded as the final result. Mr. Sung says they can use any abilities and builds, but modifiers must be kept at 60%. She immediately starts the mission and the sentinels begin spawning. In the first round, Team A defeats 10 sentinels and Team B defeats 8. Nyan says Team A is slightly ahead, and Mr. Sung explains that ranged builds have the advantage. Ranged builds can focus on firing from a distance and picking enemies off one by one. Melee builds, on the other hand, if they can't take enemies down quickly, risk getting piled on and surrounded. Shuria says they don't stand a chance even with the second try. Dowan asks if they could get a little coaching from Ethan. LNDB says that's a good idea and that it would work out for Ethan too, since his coaching skills would be proven if their performance improves. RM runs to the judges saying she'll ask if they can do that. Nyan says they're allowed to ask Ethan for coaching since it's within the rules. She says she and Mr. Sung will coach Team A in the meantime. Mr. Sung asks if Ethan's okay with it, and Ethan says he agrees if Team A agrees. Team A says they need some time to discuss. One guy asks if they shouldn't ask for Ethan's coaching too. Another guy says Ethan is a melee build player and asks if it wouldn't be better to ask Mr. Sung instead. The other two agree, saying how much Team B could even improve in 30 minutes, and that they should win as long as they keep the same pace. They agree to the terms, and Nyan says the mission will continue after the 30-minute coaching session. Ethan tells his team they need to understand the Sentinels' traits to deal with them effectively. He explains that unlike humans, Sentinels aren't afraid of getting hurt, and if they judge that the damage they can inflict is greater than the damage they'll receive, they'll abandon defense and go full offense without hesitation. He says they just need to figure out that threshold and exploit it. LNDB asks if Ethan can predict a Sentinel's actions. Ethan says they'll do a quick mock match and tells them to attack him. LNDB thinks he shouldn't hold back just because it's a mock match, since Ethan is clearly strong. He swings his sword at Ethan, and Ethan grabs the blade with his hand and kicks LNDB away. The twins nod at each other and attack together. As they rush forward, Shuria wonders what she's supposed to do since she doesn't want to accidentally hit her teammates. Ethan kicks Aryam and uppercuts Dawan, knocking them out. Ethan says this is exactly what I expected. Aside from the twins, their attacks don't link with each other at all. He says they need to decide on their linking method first. While they're getting coached, the girl from Team A says this is amazing. Chat asks why they're listening to Ethan's coaching. Mr. Sung says Ethan's tactics wouldn't work for Team A since Team A is mostly ranged builds and Team B is mostly melee. Nyan says they should be fine as long as they practice their own way and asks them to check their build composition first. 15 minutes later, Team B says they're ready to challenge, all of them looking fired up. The mission starts and the sentinels begin spawning. They rush in and start fighting, remembering they always have to be ready for counterattacks while finishing enemies off. While the melee fighters do their work, Shurya is given specific instructions. Ethan told them that the core of Team B's coordination lies with Shurya, their only ranged build user. If she hesitates to use her skills out of fear of hitting teammates, she won't get opportunities at all. He told her to make up her mind and commit to her attacks. A sentinel spawns behind LNDB. Shurya immediately fires an ice drill into its head. She says she'll watch their backs and tells them to keep fighting without worry. LNDB gives her a thumbs up, saying she did great. Nyan says Team B looks completely different now. When time runs out, they've defeated 14 sentinels in total. Chat wasn't expecting such a comeback. Mr. Sung says Ethan really proved his coaching skills. Nyan tells Team A that it's okay, asks them not to get shaken and to keep doing what they've been doing. Team A agrees and says they'll do their best. By the end, they defeat 12 sentinels on their second try. With that, Team B wins by 2 kills, making them the winners. Team A says they were close and thought they were going to win. Chat respects Team A's effort. One guy says it feels a bit unsatisfying to end like this, especially since Shurya did better on her second try. He says I'm sure Ethan could also advise ranged DPS. He walks up to Ethan and asks if he could advise them too. Ethan nods and says he doesn't mind. He tells the Power Ranger guy that the strength of the Pyromancer build is its nuking ability and explains how to maximize it. The guy says he understands what Ethan means. Ethan gives advice to the others as well. As they leave, they say they really had a fun experience, and Nyan thanks them for their time. Now it's the finals, a 2v2 team battle mission. The mission is a PvP survival competition. Whichever team survives until the end wins. The teams are already decided. LNDB and Shurya versus the twins. In a gym somewhere, Soil finishes her workout on the verge of passing out. Then she remembers she has to check something and quickly pulls out her phone. The results of the 2v2 are posted on the community. The twins won, just as she expected, but she wasn't expecting Ethan to become a coach. Since an official coach has the right to choose their team, she thinks he might choose her team since they've met before. She smiles, thinking she might be able to stream with him again soon. The next stream starts a few days later, and the casters welcome the viewers as usual. Nyan reminds everyone where they left off in PvE last time, and now she says they'll hear Ethan's answer to Ginny's question about what he plans to do next. Ethan tells Ginny that he plans on sweeping the reverse planet by himself. Hana says he's as diligent as she expected, and with his skills, it should be possible. Ginny agrees, then whispers to him that she wants to tell him something and asks him to check his messages before leaving, since it's awkward to say out loud. While walking down to the garage, he checks his phone. Ginny asks if Ethan remembers the guys who attacked them last time. She says their target wasn't her, it was Ethan. The Enterprise might want something from him, and there's a high chance they'll attack him again. But they already know the Bureau will be ready, so they won't act recklessly. She adds that they've planted spies within the Enterprise who will report back as soon as the enemies start plotting something. She also sends him a list of reverse planets suitable for solo operations. Nyan says this isn't obvious foreshadowing for an attack. Mr. Sung says the hunting dogs might appear soon again. Someone approaches Ethan, introducing himself as Ji-hoon from the support and assistance team. He says he heard Ethan is going on a solo mission and offers to take him to the spot. Ji-hoon drops Ethan off and leaves. As Ethan walks toward the portal, he remembers Ginny said people would be guarding the area nearby, but they wouldn't be hiding in the bushes, which means he's surrounded. There are 6. They all attack with magic at once. Ethan zigzags through the spells, then jumps at one of the casters, but someone steps in and punches Ethan back. The man says Ethan's senses are much sharper than he imagined, and that it's nice to finally meet you, or should I call you test subject number 48. Ethan asks if they're from the Enterprise too. The man says Ethan is quick-witted and that they can keep this brief. He tells him to return to the lab. He says he might have gotten to the point too quickly, then promises they'll cultivate Ethan's abilities with proper experiments this time. Ethan tells them to get lost and stop wasting his time. The leader says it's unfortunate to hear that, and whatever happens now is entirely Ethan's fault. He tells his men to deal with him. One punches Ethan's sword, but gets pushed back. Another guy attacks from the side with a spear, trying to catch Ethan off guard. Ethan slams the greatsword onto the spear user's head. The leader tells his men to keep pushing forward. The 3 ranged users attack at once. Ethan stands unharmed after taking the hits. Nyan says the seasoned hunting dogs are showing excellent teamwork, but they still can't beat Ethan. Mr. Sung says it's because Ethan's level is pretty high now. The enemies curse at Ethan for killing their comrades and ask their leader what they should do next. The leader says they have no more options and tells them all to take TL-01. Nayeon asks what TL-01 is and if Mr. Sung has heard of it. Mr. Sung says there's no information on it, not even on the hypernet. Nayeon asks if that means it's new lore. Mr. Sung says it has to be. The leader pulls out a pill and says Ethan forced their hand. Even Ethan has never heard of something called TL-01 in the other world. The leader takes the pill and immediately his skin turns purple and their bodies start morphing. Looking at their characteristics, Nayeon says they don't look like dimensional invaders. Chot agrees. Ethan thinks this isn't an ordinary doping drug. They jump at him again. One of them punches the ground where Ethan was standing, shattering it. Chot asks if one pill really was enough to do all that, especially since his ability is much stronger now. The power is completely different. Another mage fires an enormous flame attack. Ethan slices through as many of them as he can, but they pass through, nearly hitting him in multiple spots. Nayeon says Ethan is being pushed completely onto the defensive, and how a drug could cause such a drastic change. Mr. Sung says he's not sure either, because it's not just their abilities that are enhanced. Their behavior is strange too. They look completely different, as if they've lost all emotion. One of them jumps out from behind Ethan unnoticed and slams him into a wall. Mr. Sung says it's almost as if they're all being controlled by something else. Ethan realizes these guys didn't just get physically stronger, they've changed, like they lost their minds, just like the invaders, so he decides to end this fast and investigate it himself. He leaps straight at the man, using a flamethrower skill, cuts clean through the flames, then slices the caster in half before bursting forward toward their leader. The leader instantly throws up a stone wall to block Ethan's strike. He's pushed back and orders the remaining two men to corner Ethan. They combine their lightning and wind skills and fire everything at him. Ethan slices through the magic with his sword, releasing a shockwave that wipes out all their attacks. The leader shouts asking what just happened, but Ethan suddenly appears behind him and knocks him out cold. Ethan grabs him by the collar and demands to know about the drug they just used, but the leader starts bleeding from his eyes and nose, panicking, asking why this is happening since the drug was supposed to be stable. Before he can say anything else, he dies. Ethan realizes the drug's effects must have deteriorated. The other two die as well because of it, leaving Ethan alone. He wanted more information about this mysterious drug that never existed in the other world. He checks their bodies and only finds a few phones, masks, knives, and a single earring. Ginny and Hana arrive with several guards, apologizing for being late. Ethan says it's fine. Nayeon jokes that at this point it's basically tradition for them to arrive late to everything. Mr. Sung says the plot is expanding with all the corporate pressure tied to TL-01. Ethan asks Hana and Ginny how they figured out where he was. Hana explains they received intel that Ethan would be attacked right after he left, so they asked the agent assigned to track which portal he was heading to. But that agent gave them the exact opposite direction, then suddenly quit his job on the spot. So they tracked the dashcam footage from the car Ethan used to get there. But it looks like Ethan already handled the situation himself. Ginny apologizes again and says she'll make sure he gets compensated. Ethan says he doesn't really need it, but he'll take it anyway. Ginny says they'll finish the cleanup before heading back. Ethan walks into a random dark alley. Chatters ask where he's going. Nayeon says she thought he was going to report to Kim. Mr. Sung says they should just keep watching to find out. Ethan thinks that if Anonymous Viewer 62 is really a developer like he suspected, then the adaptive AI unlocking new features, the copycat invader, and the sudden introduction of TL-01 that even the casters had never heard of all make sense. It also explains why the story changes based on his choices. This could be the clue that lets him uncover the secrets of the other world. He came to this alley to investigate the corpse, since he also needs to put a stop to the League of Enterprises. He suddenly changes his build, shocking Nayeon. Mr. Sung says this new build doesn't look like a melee build. This is the build Ethan used before he was ever called a superhuman in the other world, a build designed for pure destruction. Ethan knows exactly which lab created the TL-01 drug. There's one corporation deeply connected to it, Shin Electronics. Nayeon asks if that isn't the same corporation that attacked Ethan and Ginny on their first mission, and asks if he's planning to attack them. Mr. Sung makes perfect sense why Ethan changed his build. If a melee user attacked the corporation, it would be way too obvious who did it. Ethan changes his appearance too, silver hair and the white mask he got from the people who attacked him before. Chatters ask if this is the first time he's shown his custom skin. Mr. Sung says it's been a while since he's used the test subject outfit as well. Ethan puts on the mask and the earring, then runs toward the building. He blasts through a glass window, bursting inside and startling everyone. He walks through the dust cloud. Nyan asks if this is really okay and what happens if other players get involved. Mr. Sung explains the phase shift system activated when the entrance exploded, turning the corporate raid into a unique content tailored specifically for Ethan. Phase shift separates players into different spaces based on circumstances or events, meaning players can't see or interact with each other even if they're on the same map. Guards rush in with guns and order Ethan not to move. He flicks his hand, sending them flying sideways. He remembers the layout of this building from the other world. If it's the same, then there should be a secret floor leading to the underground research facility. More guards rush in and shout for Ethan to stop. A gorilla-like man steps forward, saying Ethan is using abilities illegally and orders him to surrender if he doesn't want to be taken down by force. Ethan remembers this guy. His name is Juan. The ghosts of Ethan's comrades start screaming, demanding that he kill Juan. While Juan is giving his speech, he notices small rocks falling on his shoulder. Then the entire roof collapses on them. Many guards are buried alive. The remaining ones are trapped with no exit. They panic, asking what just happened and why the ceiling collapsed out of nowhere. The reason Ethan was called the Destroyer in the other world was because of this exact build. Juan gulps, saying the enemy is far stronger than expected, and orders the guards not to lower their guard. They all attack. One of them launches hundreds of shadow spears at Ethan. Ethan uses force to stop every single one, flips them around, and sends them right back at the guards. Juan asks how this is even possible. Ethan says it doesn't matter. When Ethan steps forward, Juan instinctively takes a few steps back. Ethan asks if Juan isn't coming closer. Juan charges and uses his ability, sending rocks flying at Ethan, but the rocks start disintegrating before they can reach him. Chatters go wild, asking what kind of god-tier ability this is, and if this is even possible with telekinesis. Ethan sweeps his hands and completely destroys all of Juan's limbs at once. Ethan begins floating toward him. Juan breaks down, crying and begging to be spared. It reminds Ethan of the other world. Juan is just as disgusting as Ethan remembers. The ghosts scream for Ethan to kill him. Ethan remembers Juan laughing while killing his comrades, but when it was his turn to die, he begged with tears in his eyes. Ethan says he's done enough and sends a black orb toward Juan. Juan asks what that is. Juan gets sucked into the black orb. His entire body explodes. Nyan covers her mouth, about to throw up. Chatters ask how something this graphic is even possible in a game and tell the casters to put a warning on the stream. Mr. Sung apologizes and adjusts the screen. He says he didn't think something like this was possible with telekinesis and asks Nyan if she knew about it. Nyan is surprised by the question but says she expected the build to be weaker than the old one. Ethan thinks he's dealt with everything, but if reinforcements arrived, it would have been troublesome, so he has to move fast. Alarms start blaring in the lab. The researchers panic, asking how Ethan even found this facility since no one except staff should have known about it. They say they need to call for support first. The door is ripped open and Ethan walks in. The researchers tell him to stay back. He lifts all of them with telekinesis and slams them into a wall. He walks up to a computer. The list of corporations sponsoring the lab and the hunting dogs matches the other world, making it easier for him to remember. The over-enhancement of abilities was originally just a performance-enhancing drug, but back then the hunting dogs didn't simply get stronger, they turned into invaders. He realizes the drug's effects must have been altered by someone. A researcher arrives with 3 intermediate sentinels and orders them to capture Ethan. Ethan raises his hand, stopping all 3 sentinels in midair. He pulls them together and crushes them into a single lump of metal. The stunned researchers start begging for help. Before they can finish, Ethan twists one of their necks. Chatters ask if telekinesis was always this broken. Nyan says Ethan used to kill intermediate sentinels in 3 seconds using only 1 core ability. Mr. Sung says they should focus on the information gained by attacking the corporation. Ethan thinks he didn't get much, but it was enough to warn the corporation for now. Then he gets a notification for completing the mission, Attack Shin Electronics. Ethan is confused, so are the Chatters. They ask how that was even an official mission. Nyan asks how the story is going to unfold from here. Mr. Sung says if missions are being generated automatically based on Ethan's actions, then predicting the future story becomes pointless. Nyan asks if that's even possible. Mr. Sung says this is his first time seeing something like this too. Ethan realizes this means he can do whatever he wants without following the original story at all. For now, he decides to return and plan his next moves. At Planet Earth Main Branch USA, Sophia asks what the hell a fully adaptive story system is and whether they released such an update. The developer says it seems to have been implemented when the game was down for maintenance during the pet system update. He also says there are traces that DEUS was involved in the update. Sophia asks if DEUS is awake now. The developer shakes his head and says it's not, but there are logs showing it accessed the system at the same level as Isaac, even though there's still no response. He adds that there's a chance this entire situation was orchestrated by DEUS, not Isaac, which would explain why DEUS remains unresponsive. Sophia says it's not impossible if DEUS is using all its resources for system development. She also mentions a viewer named Deus who's been donating with missions, which has been bothering her. She looks at her chat logs with Isaac. She remembers when he told her about DEUS. Isaac said he was going to make the world's best AI, and when DEUS was completed, he would use it to create Reverse Planet. Then he cut himself off, saying she didn't need to worry and that he'd tell her when it was done. Sophia asks if there's anything else to discuss. Another developer says they found additional data but couldn't analyze it further because it's encrypted. Sophia says their next move is to decrypt that data with everything they have. At their local cafe, Nyan tells Ethan their last stream was a banger. Ethan says she says that after every stream. Nyan insists this one was different. She says she even got a DM from someone named Chloe Martinez with millions of subscribers. While Nyan keeps yapping, Ethan thinks about how Anonymous Viewer 62 hasn't reacted to the new story system. They usually reacted almost instantly, like during the pet incident. He wonders why this time is different and if he's missing something. Nyan asks if they should do only PvP content for the next stream and says they just need to adjust the timing. Ethan cuts her off and says he has to continue PvE. Now that there's a fully adaptive story system, he doesn't want to waste time on PvP during such an important period. Nyan finds it strange because Ethan was never the type to immerse himself this deeply into a game. Then she remembers how his expressions suddenly changed before. Mr. Sung had also asked what Ethan was like in real life after seeing so many questions about it, and she had said he was similar to how he is in-game. But compared to before, he's not as expressive anymore. Not only that, he has martial skills she didn't even know about, and he has a strange obsession with Anonymous Viewer 62. Fidgeting with her fingers, she says she's had something on her mind for a while. She asks if something happened to him when she wasn't with him. She says she feels like he's changed. This is the first time she's ever seen him this immersed in a game. She says she's starting to wonder if this is more than just about the game for him. She places her hand on his and says if there's anything he needs help with, she can always ask her. Ethan says she can help him anytime. He wonders if he's lost his pace so badly that even oblivious Nyan can notice it. He didn't mean to rush things and make the people around him worry. Ethan says maybe he's overreacting and says they can do PvP content for the next stream like she wanted. Nyan asks if he's really okay with it. Ethan says he is. Nyan smiles and says then it's fine, then immediately starts yapping again. That evening, the notice for his next stream goes up. He's going to break the showdown mode record using a build chosen by the viewers. A few days later, during the live stream, Nyan says everyone should already know today's content. Ethan is trying to break the win streak record using builds chosen by viewers. She says a lot of people wanted to see him try different builds, and she adds she's not trying to be toxic to master tier players, but she honestly doesn't think anyone in this rank can stop Ethan's streak. Mr. Sung asks if that's why she's putting a handicap on him by forcing him to use random builds. Nyan says yes. Mr. Sung asks if Ethan even agreed to this. If viewers pick something weird, his streak could be in danger. Nyan says she was worried too and asked him about it, then asks if they want to guess what he said. She imitates him and says he told her he didn't care what kind of build they picked and told her to do whatever she needed with the exact same serious face. Mr. Sung explains that unlike PvE, where players need to level up and assemble builds properly, PvP automatically gives everyone a max level build, but it's significantly weakened. A donor says there are no weak builds in PvP, only weak players. Nyan says she's setting up a build wheel and asks chatters to send their build codes through donations in the next 30 seconds. Donations start rolling in with build codes. After a minute, they spin the wheel. The first build Ethan has to use is the Steel Lord build. It's an ability that lets the player summon up to 12 Steel Knights and control them. Mr. Sung says they're starting with a difficult one. He explains that multi-summoning is extremely hard, especially without modifiers. The player has to control 12 knights manually. He adds that some players choose to summon fewer knights or limit their commands. Nyan asks if that wouldn't drop the build's overall efficiency. She says she's sure Ethan can pull it off like he always does. They say they should start without further delay. The first showdown match of the day begins. Nyan says Ethan's first opponent has an outstanding recent record with 15 wins and 5 losses. Chatters say a 75% win rate in Master Tier is insane, and that the opponent is probably a smurf. Ethan sees that the opponent is using the God of Wind and Lightning build. The match starts and the opponent immediately rushes forward. At the last second, Ethan snaps his fingers and summons a knight, blocking the attack. The opponent realizes Ethan is using the Steel Lord build and quickly backs off, wondering why he only summoned one. Chatters ask why Ethan only has one knight and say it's disappointing. Nyan says the game just started and tells them to keep watching since he might summon more as he figures it out. Mr. Sung says Ethan might be prioritizing maximum output by controlling a single knight. Ethan's opponent says one knight should be easy to deal with. He prepares to use his skill again, but another knight jumps out from behind him, catching him off guard. He spins around to dodge and backs off again, wondering when Ethan summoned a second one. Then Ethan summons another knight behind that one. Nyan has her "I told you so" moment. The opponent thinks this is getting troublesome, and if Ethan summons even more, it'll only get worse, so he has to take Ethan out as quickly as possible. He tries to break through the 3 knights. Once he passes one, he sees a clear opening. Ethan says, "I understand it now." With a snap, he summons a wall of knights. Mr. Sung says Ethan just summoned all 12 at once. Nyan says he wasn't lying when he said he understood it now. He was confident he could control all 12 simultaneously. The opponent starts struggling just to survive. Nyan says Ethan's opponent doesn't stand a chance. Mr. Sung explains that controlling one steel knight is about instinct and feel, but coordinating 12 is about strategy and tactics. To manage each knight's position and action, the player has to push their brain to the limit. It's a style that demands a wide view of the battlefield, instant and correct decisions, and extreme concentration. The opponent thinks he can't go down like this, but then a knight attacks from his blind spot, securing the round. Nyan says now that Ethan understands the build, the second round should be different. Mr. Sung says he expects it to end in 3 minutes. Ethan's opponent curses at the knights to stay away from him, but they all attack at once and take him down, securing the win. The opponent laughs and says Ethan is just incredible. Mr. Sung says Ethan completely overwhelmed his opponent in the second round and his win streak is now up to 56. Nyan says she's excited for his next build and spins the wheel again. A few hours later, someone watching the stream notices Ethan is on a 75-game win streak. The guy says that's amazing and that he wants to see Ethan win with a really weak build. He also wants to fight him, but if Ethan isn't on his main build, it wouldn't be fun. Mr. Sung says they only need 2 more wins and reminds everyone that Nyan asked Ethan to use his original build for his final 2 games. Nyan confirms it. She says that's when the most people tune in, so she wants him at his best. Then one viewer says Ethan would have no reason to hold back and asks if he should stream snipe him. He presses the button and successfully gets into the same game as Ethan. Chatters recognize the name. Nyan asks, "Isn't that a pro player?" Mr. Sung says it is. He's from DH Empire, the prestigious Korean Tier 1 League team that won last year's World Championship. He adds that this player was widely said to have narrowly missed out on Finals MVP. Pro player Nikki says he's wanted to meet Ethan for a long time.